it's not done for gain or an ulterior motive. It's done because people just want to be seen. And often I found that even when people were being mean, as I experienced way too much of, it's just because they didn't feel seen or heard, and the knee-jerk reaction from that often would lead to chaos. So yeah, I don't know, I am an acknowledger of all humans and yeah, a lover of the lost ones among us.
That was Shanna Whan, and you're listening to The Regenerative Journey. From wherever we are, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia, recognising their continuing connection to this land, its waterways, the stars in the skies since time immemorial. We pay our respects to the elders, knowledge holders, and to all the generations of First Nations peoples who have nurtured their unceded sovereign lands for over 80,000 years and continue to do so today.
G'day, I'm your host Charlie Arnott, an 8th generational Australian regenerative farmer. And in this podcast series, I'll be diving deep and exploring my guests' unique perspectives on the world so you can apply their experience and knowledge to cultivate your own transition to a more regenerative way of life.
Welcome to The Regenerative Journey with your host, Charlie Arnott.
Okay, welcome back to The Regenerative Journey. And before I bang on about my guest this week, as I am in the habit of doing, I'm going to throw a few other things at you, a few reminders, a bit of this, bit of that, bit of chitty chat. First thing is, I wanted to just drop in there again the webinar series we're putting on. It's called Your Regenerative Journey, Farm Smarter, Not Harder, Unleash the Benefits of Regenerative Farming for Economic Growth, Ecological Prosperity, and farm business resilience in an uncertain future. Now, you can go to charliearnott.com.au, Farm Smarter, Not Harder. There's a little button there, and you get your tickets. Now, you're hearing this a couple of weeks after, I should say, I'm recording this, so there's even less chance of tickets being left for the farm tour as part of that. You've probably been listening to ad nauseum our little ads at the front of the show. I suggest that if you want to get on board for the webinar series, early bird tickets are going to stop. I'm not sure when they're going to stop. Maybe by the time you even hear this, they may have already stopped. However, keen to get anyone here for the farm tour is only 50 tickets, and we've also started a couples thing as well, so a +1. So get in and on board as soon as you can. Something that's popping up, and it sounds a bit left field, I read something about it the other day, was cashless society. It's such not a new topic. Things have been brewing for some time, but I did see something about CBA. Was it CBA sort of making it? Well, they're not actually making it hard, or just not letting people take cash out of the bank in a few branches. And ANZ was doing something similar too some time ago, and I think that's just crazy. I think it's nuts that anyone thinks it's a good idea that we all go to a credit card system and there's no cash in the economy. Because as someone pointed out the other day, very succinctly, $50 in cash that you pay someone with, that $50, if that cash keeps on going through the economy, perfect example is a rural community. That $50 goes from me to the grocery store, from the grocery store to the garage, the fuel man, and then it goes around and around. $50 as a cash thing does. It doesn't disappear. When you pay for something with a credit card, which we're all, doing and prone to do, I'm sure most of us are, there's that surcharge. So in actual fact, it's costing that $50 in essence doesn't retain its value, as the system, as we, it actually costs us. And so that $50 in essentially, as it circulates through an economy through a credit card system, becomes less and less. And so we're not doing our best to support local communities. I reckon bring the cash back. I'd suggest, I'm not a doomsday by any means, but I'd suggest if, it's probably not a bad idea to start using more cash, keep some on your person at all times. And I know, people are often surprised when you pull cash out and pay for something because they're so used to cards. But I think there's this, there's a part of the population that are supportive of that whole idea. And I think, a lot of the population are pretty asleep to it all, unfortunately. But I think that, where's that heading? I don't know. I might have mentioned it before, actually, on previous episodes, but it's worth bringing up, given the CBA thing I read the other day. I just think it's dangerous if we're all down to, credit cards and no cash, or even one credit card, some social credit scoring thing, and bit of plastic, and things are less and less in our control then. I won't bang on about it because I think I already have, but just think about that for a minute. Turning up to the shops to buy your food and using your card, the only card you've got, and them saying, no, you can't buy that because you've, overdone your carbon emissions, or you haven't paid a fine or something. All this interconnectedness is not necessarily a good thing, I don't think. There you go. There's a little rant for the morning. Webinar series you talked about. Biodynamic workshops are on. Check our events page on charlieart.com.au/events for our upcoming biodynamics workshop. There's a mastermind course, of course. You can purchase, jump on our website to find that one as well. That's basically an online self-managed, jump on with a series of lessons of our Introduction to Biodynamics workshop with Hamish Mackay and my good self. And Hamish is a freak. He's just so good at that. He's amazing. His depth of knowledge and experience in the world of biodynamics. And that's probably enough from me about the preamble. Shanna Whan, what a star. I have kind of vicariously known Shanna for a long time. And when I say that, as in, we sort of circulate in the same sort of groups, both spent a lot of time in the country, going to country parties, all sorts of things, share very similar interests. And more recently, we've reconnected, and through her journey, her somewhat regenerative journey of recovery, of healing, it was just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to sit down with her at her little church, family church, built by, now I can't remember now, a grandfather, great-great-grandfather maybe. Such a lovely place to be sitting in their home, chatting with Shanna about her life, which it's a long interview, but it's just such a wonderful, compelling discussion, so honest, so courageous, so open and transparent. And she, I have to say, was brilliant at just maintaining the energy. She's a very energetic woman, but I know she has to be very mindful of her energy expenditure and who she spends time with, and how she spends the time, because she just does. And she's good at that. She's very, very sensible in terms of her self-care. This is a wonderful episode, an amazing interview with an incredible woman. Shanna Whan is this episode of The Regenerative Journey, and I hope you enjoy listening to it as much as I did sitting down with Shanna Whan for The Regenerative Journey. You're very professional. Yes. Well, you know what? I've caught you because we're already 10 seconds in. How's that?
Oh, great. Hi, Charles.
Shanna Whan, welcome to The Regenerative Journey.
Hi, mate.
And welcome to your little house, your church. Welcome to Christina.
Isn't it so lovely?
Can you tell us where we are and why we're here? And you told me the story, but I want to hear it again because it's a lovely little thing. Because why I'm asking those questions is it sets the scene, the context of the conversation.
Absolutely.
It sort of helps kind of navigate to where, who you are.
Yep. And
also it's a bloody good story.
Okay, so we are in Maules Creek, northwest New South Wales, which is between Narrabri and Gunnedah. And we are coming to you from a little bush church, which is known, as you now know, as Christina Cottage. It was built by my husband's great-grandfather for his wife. In 1957 as a memorial to the amazing Christina Campbell. Yeah. And it was a working Presbyterian church for a long time. Then it was vacant for a little while. But essentially the family donated it to the church for their use way back in the day, and then it was sat vacant for a while. And then my father-in-law, Dougie, actually contacted them to say, can we buy that and have it back in the family? And they said, well, how about we donate it back again?
So it was, does it have to be deconsecrated or something? How does that work?
That's a really great question, and a couple of people have asked it. I don't actually know. No. I don't actually know. All I know is that we get to walk down the aisle every day and have breakfast.
What is up down the red red carpet?
And a red carpet. No, don't eat the microphone biscuit.
That is a door there. Yeah, cool. Yeah. So we came in the side door.
Yeah. So this...
For anyone who's worried, it isn't a big dog. It's only a little Jack Russell.
That was Biscuit letting it be known that she wasn't impressed.
So cute. But that's what they do. They chew.
Yeah, she was trying to eat your microphone. Little bugger. That's enough out of you, Biscuit. Anyway, so the church was then donated back to the family, and then it was turned into a rental for a couple of years, and then just after COVID, Timbo and I ended up here. And it was interesting at the time. We came here as a bit of a last resort to get away from a toxic situation. And in the end, it was, would you dare say, God-given? It was just beautiful. It was the perfect thing. I didn't think it would be. I was very frightened of being isolated, actually. And then I got here and I walked around 3 times and went, oh, we're not going anywhere, are we, Tim?
It feels so good.
Isn't
and we're
weird?
looking out, for those who are watching, you won't see us. You won't see the view. You'll see the door, the bathroom door behind us and the cupboards. But we're looking at a beautiful little scene, just looking out to, was it Horse something Creek?
Horsearm Creek.
Horsearm Creek. There's a couple of beautiful trees there, gums, grass, and some acacias or something over there as well.
There's a couple of old silky oaks.
Silky oaks.
And I was going to tell you that's where I'll put Dad's ashes, but I won't talk about that because I'll cry. Silky oaks. Oh,
well,
gosh.
he's here.
Hey?
He's here.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he be?
Because I haven't had the courage yet. I only lost him in January. So gums, look at me moving on before I start crying, before we even begun podcasting. My God.
That might be a record.
Oh, tell you.
3 minutes 45.
Tell you. I know. I can't say Dad yet. I can't do it. But, look, this little creek and this little block is magical. What you can't see is there's a gorgeous little crystal clear babbling brook. And it's just beautiful. We're so blessed to live here, honestly.
Well, it is it's such a beautiful spot. It's got such a lovely vibe. You've shown me the keg out the back. And the significance of it being called the keg will probably be clear later on. But
we have keg sessions at my house. Keg session. I invite people.
And it's a little sauna. It's a little cedar sauna that is literally the size of one of those big, like a massive
a giant wooden
barrel keg. It's awesome.
Is. And an infrared sauna that lives at the back of the church is what we're talking about, folks. I don't have keg sessions.
But it is very good for one's health. We
really good.
And you're looking really healthy.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, totally.
I think it's because I've put on weight and it irons out the wrinkles.
No.
Happy days. Never mind Botox. Just go through menopause. Stack on a few kilos.
You've got the infrared, you've got the plunge pull out the back, you've got it all going. I noticed one of those flippy chair things out in the garage. You know, the ones you sit in and you turn upside down?
Yes, a back stretcher.
Back stretcher. You've got
it all
going on.
All of the body parts hurt now, so there's maximum. I actually posted last night on Instagram about the keg, actually. I shared about the infrared sauna.
Were you in it?
No, I used a male model. I didn't think anyone deserved to see me
Tim?
sitting in there. Well, no, he wasn't home. I used a stock image.
I was going to say to Tim, no, you had a male model.
He didn't know what he doesn't know. No. And it's funny, and I posted about how back in the day I used to spend all my money on booze and cigarettes and hangovers and lost productivity. And now, I mean, it's a typical bloody story, really, isn't it, of a reformed human? You come back from the brink of death and then you spend all your money on doing all of the things that are good for you.
Investments.
Investments.
It's not spending money, it's an investment.
Do you know, there's a health retreat I go to and I remember hearing
Are you allowed to say which one?
Yeah, I'm totally happy to say. Living Valley up at the Sunshine Coast.
Okay.
Bloody love them. I've been going for a long, long time. And I remember hearing a quote that, isn't it ironic that we spend all of our health trying to get our wealth when we're young, and then we spend all of our wealth trying to get our health when we're older. I'm in that second category. But you know what? Given I was nearly dead 8 years ago, I think I must be doing something a little bit right.
Well, it's it's so true, isn't it? That, and it does often take a lifetime or half a lifetime to kind of work that out, doesn't it? And without those trials and tribulations, and we all have them, we all have different versions of challenges, and you've certainly had yours that lead us to where we are now.
Yes, and I was thinking about that. The first time I met you, I was just a flipping full-blown party girl.
Was that Cara?
I don't know, yes.
I was thinking about that the other day.
I was down at Harden. Yeah, it's when I was working down that way.
Was it a Harden picnic races?
I reckon it was. I was grooming at a polo stud nearby.
Yes.
Yes.
I was at the polo the other day.
Oh, really? Marvellous. Well, anyway, I was just a commoner.
The one at Harden?
Yes.
Oh, the big one at Harden?
Yes.
Oh, wow, yeah. This
Yes.
is a delight.
I was just a peasant shoveling manure.
Manure.
Yes. Anyway, yes, that feels like a whole different life.
Wow.
And
that was a while ago.
I'll save some of my innermost thoughts for not this podcast because I have a few scathing memories.
Oh, really? We won't say where it was.
No, but just as in, there's a few things about certain industries that
Culture?
Yeah. Culture. Anyway, as a young bloody lost soul, I remember being down there and I was like, I think the first time I met you, I was in the batshit crazy place. Yeah. Anyway, isn't it funny? Meanwhile, another half a life goes by.
I know.
Well,
I know that we've sort of come full circle because,
grown up and professional.
I know. Look at the gear I've got. I'm like, really, this is an investment. So tell me, we've touched on kind of this. I mean, what does it mean for you now to be, I guess, settled here, looking at nature? You've got your hounds, your various. How many hounds? One, two,
two blue heelers and one Jack Russell.
Three hounds. How does that feel? Do you feel settled? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel? I don't know. Not that this is maybe your forever home. It is absolutely beautiful. But was it important for you to get back into the country so you've got a view like that every day?
Do you know, it's an amazing thing. When we got here, I remember saying to Tim, this is the first time I have felt like I'm home since I was 11.
Really?
Yep. So, yes, because that's when I had to go away to boarding school. And I reckon I've been a displaced person ever since, to be honest. So this feels like home. And this community, I don't know if Christina Cottage is our forever home. I think we have a little more expanding to do and a bit more to offer. But this community is our forever community. It's so lovely. Maules Creek rocks. It's so beautiful. So, yeah, I feel like I'm home for the first time since I was a little person.
Since you're 11. We won't jump to boarding school just yet.
You'll make me cry again.
Okay.
5 minutes in. I'm emotional and I've got menopause, so just go cautiously.
Oh, well,
mate.
can I again, before I forget, which I trust I won't later on, but just to thank you for your time, because the last time I saw you was, I think it was at my grazing.
Yeah.
In February last year.
Yes.
And so we were trying to coordinate things there and I had to sort of piss off the next day and you had to go back to town.
So we rudely had other things on.
I know, it was disgraceful.
Unbelievable that you did not drop everything for me, Charlie.
I know, well I nearly did.
Did you know what happened at that field day? Were you there at the nighttime thing when Al hopped up?
Oh, yes, tell us that. Oh, yeah, let's tell us. Yeah.
Oh, we can, sorry.
No, say it. No, there's no rules or regulations here.
No, just, memories of that field day. I went in there knowing that Stu was the manager at Wilmot and I'd said to him, can you point out, is there a VIP here or someone I need to know or acknowledge? Because my love language is acknowledging people who donate to the charity in lieu of a speaker fee for me, because that's how we operate. I don't pay myself.
Yep.
I ask for a donation to Sober in the Country as a speaker. And he said, that fella in the front row, his name's Al. I went, right.
That bloke.
That old mate there. Anyway, I remember going up to Al and saying, thank you so, so much for having me. And I just, expressed my gratitude, which is always very sincere. Anyway, that night I did the talk and unbeknownst to me, those amazing humans had squirreled away a novelty check and they just, out of absolutely nowhere, donated $25,000 to us out of nowhere. And, anyway, speaking of emotional, and I must have given Al about 13 different cuddles. I was completely beside myself and just, it was such a beautiful, unexpected act of generosity. And I think that's when I started falling in love with regen, community and people, because I was a little bit green on that front myself. But in the last year, wow, I have come to understand this community and I've fallen very hardly
You've hardly fallen. No, that's the opposite. You've fallen very hard.
I have fallen hard and fast.
Like.
In love with the regen community.
Cool.
It's unbelievable. Anyway, there you go.
I want to talk about that. I've got a little note there. I want to get back to that.
Come back to
and
that.
There's, I guess, a couple of things that your presentation or your speech, it's probably not the right word, your address that night was amazing, and it was very fitting that happened after that Al and Co. And the other fun thing was the check was like one of those good old fashioned. Wasn't it? Wasn't it like a big cardboard or like an enormous, as big as a surfboard?
Yeah, it's out the back shed.
It's so cool.
It was
like,
so cool.
That's a check.
It was a beautiful moment. I was so touched by that. I mean, it was incredible. Yeah, that was a good night. That was a cool night.
So last time I saw you, so lots has happened since then. But talking about lots has happened, let's take us back to, day one. Shanna pops out of somewhere.
Like birth?
Let's go. Can we go there?
Yeah, we can go there.
Kind of just set the scene where you were. Those formative years.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
So, babe, this is menopause. It does stuff to your brain. I'm going to keep referencing it.
Is that like brain, tongue?
Yep. Yeah, brain, tongue, emotions.
There's probably some science around that. There's probably actually like synaptic stuff going on.
There is so much. When you Google...
Maybe lion's mane.
Oh, mate, I can't even. It's like it's kidnapped my brain, and I just. Anywho, so I arrived on planet Earth in 1974, and I was actually born in Zimbabwe, which a lot of people don't know. So my whole family were 7th and 8th generation Zimbabweans, and I was born there. And we came to Australia when I was 6 because Dad recognised that the country, which was then Rhodesia, was plummeting at a rapid rate of knots. And when it was ultimately his decision to leave was when Mugabe got into power, and he said, "Radio, that's enough now." So he packed up 2 toddlers and Mum, and we hit the shores of Australia. And I think we had $200, and we landed in Moree in a caravan. And Dad had to rebuild his life from ground zero as a labourer after being a really successful young man in his career in ag. He was
farming.
Yeah, potatoes, beef cattle, bit of cropping. He was headed places, but yeah, as you do when you land in a foreign country, fleeing impending, civil war and God knows what else, you just get thrown straight to the bottom of the pile.
Was there not? I guess there would have been pretty strict rules around entry, but also exit. Like, don't be taking any money with you.
Yeah, no, there was no money. There was like $200 apparently. It was we had. I wrote this in Dad's eulogy the other day about how I remember our first vehicle was a second-hand lime green Valiant.
That's cool.
A little bomb. Yeah. No, I think our. Yeah,
like a station wagon?
Yeah, station wagon, sorry, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so we landed in Australia. Anyway, and so I began life in Australia at the age of 6, and and fairly quickly Dad ascended through the ranks of Australian agriculture, and we ended up sort of hanging around northwestern New South Wales. But as is the right of all bush kids, schooling was an issue, so I had to go away to boarding school when I was 11, hence the reference to that earlier.
Were you on farm when you were up here? Yeah. So you were space, grass, sky, trees.
I grew up like this. Yeah. This could have been home. Yeah. I grew up like a little bareback, horse riding, feral, unplugged, barefoot, filthy kid. I loved it. I was such a free range feral kid. Loved it.
Were you far out of town? Like, were you literally
hour and a half from Moree? Yep.
Which way?
To southwest, near Collarenebri.
Yeah. So expansive.
Yeah, I grew up I literally grew up on the back of a horse bareback, rescuing feral creatures. Because I was a feral creature, kindred spirits scooping each other up.
Jungle Book.
Yeah, I was like,
I
was the jungle girl, which is kind of beautiful actually. That's a real tip of the hat to how Mum raised me. In Africa, Mum was exactly the same. any injured anything was given a second chance at under the care of Mum, and she was phenomenal with animals. And so, and we grew up with animals because of the danger. So we lived in Angola, which was a gateway for terrorists to come into the country.
Angola, sorry, excuse my ignorance.
Oh,
Angola,
don't ask me to describe it.
No. Was Angola like a province of Rhodesia, or was it a whole country?
No, we had moved to, I will have to check that. That's embarrassing because we moved a few times. I actually would have to check that. All I know is that when I wrote Dad's eulogy, we were in Angola and it was a gateway for terrorists to enter. And we had sandbags and double-fenced mine anti-personnels that would explode on impact and all sorts of stuff. And Mum slept with a gun under her pillow. There was us kids were raised with a escape box with holes in it built into the floorboards so that in the event of an attack and Mum and Dad's lives being threatened, they'd jam us in there and hope someone would find us. All of this sort of stuff.
That was live.
Can you believe that? Anyway, and because of the very high reality of terrorist threats on a daily basis, we had bull terriers for guard dogs. So I grew up with bull terriers in the house, on the bed, in the bar, like they were just there, our shadows 24/7. So I was always going to love dogs all my life long, which is why you've just entered a house and you've had to flip and fight your way through dogs.
Well, I smell like a dog because I've got dogs at home, and I'm probably a good thing. They might have torn me apart if I hadn't smelled like a dog.
Oh, exactly. They're vicious.
They're
but
so cute.
So that love for animals has been there since day one. I'm going to shut that fly screen. 1 moment.
Which one?
Oh, I hear, so the dog flaps wasn't. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Oh, yeah. Yeah, cool.
Anyway, so growing up with animals was exactly how it was, and that was a theme through all of my childhood. So being taken away from that and sent to boarding school was not good.
Had you been to the Big Smoke much before? Was it really like, oh my God, what is this place? What happened in my life? Where is Mum and Dad? All that sort of stuff. At age 11, you were saying. So is that?
Sorry. And now that we've shut the dog door, everyone's coming in. In, out.
Sorry. So was that that was a bit of a rude shock? Was it grade 6 or 7 you went? 7?
7. It was a bloody rude
boarding
shock.
School in Sydney?
No, in Toowoomba.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All southwestern Queensland kids and all northwest New South Wales kids seem to go, not all, but a fair chunk go to Toowoomba.
And you did your 6 years of secondary there?
Yes, I did.
You got through, you got through to year 12?
And here comes another dog just on cue. Swear to God. That's now 3, and in a minute they should
Biscuit.
start.
And then they go, I've got to go outside now.
Hang on.
No, it's so fine.
I'll pick you up, Biscuit. Come on.
Biscuit.
Yeah, so basically did all the way through to grade 12 in Toowoomba. So,
were you happy to leave?
Swear to God, it's because I shut the door.
Then there's the dog bowl. There's a lick.
Yep, now we're licking, now we're drinking. Yeah.
And out. Here we go. Listen.
Oh, yep, Flea's going to go out again.
And thinking about it. Thinking.
And now Melly. And now Biscuit.
Listen.
Wait up.
There it is.
Fair dinkum. Don't work with dogs or children.
No. So then, happy to leave?
I will shut that.
That is hilarious.
Incredibly annoying.
Well, we either have the dogs in and out or the flies. So which is worse?
Quick.
Go on. And out that one.
Guys, serious. Quick, come on. Charlie doesn't want to do editing all day. Come on.
No, that's all right. We love it.
Flea.
They really are parts of the members of the family. For those who are still listening, and who have dogs, you'll totally get the pandemonium that sometimes happens when you've got dogs. So happy to leave school, 6 years.
Mate, I was
tough.
Oh God, a few people and I have spoken about it and the impact that boarding school had on people, particularly in our generation. It's very different now. It's very different.
So there wasn't, just on that one, which may sort of be part of what you were saying. It was no conversations with mum and dad. It was like, okay, and tomorrow you're going to go to boarding school.
kind of. Yeah, that was the only option. We were raised in that, oh, well, this is what's happening, so end of story. And anyway, look, and I was essentially a very good, very obedient kid, so off I went, and I just did what we did. But it was not a good time for me at all. I really struggled.
Homesick?
Oh God, terrible homesickness. And because I'd grown up such a free range little feral, had no social skills. I had the social skills of a peanut. And when you land in an all-girls boarding school and you have no social skills or awareness or any understanding of the politics of young girls, let alone teenage girls, I mean, I reckon it took me till I was 30 to be able to actually operate functionally with other women. I was just so traumatised after boarding school. It was dreadful. I did not go well.
So friends?
Yeah, I had a few mates. But
Country friends?
Yeah, no, I had a few day girl mates. I actually used to hang out with my brother's mates a bit because I was such a tomboy. But what I didn't know is that made me a target because the other girls found that uncomfortable, even though they didn't understand I was playing footy. Yeah, I was playing footy and I literally was playing football and tackle and crash like I was a proper tomboy with all the cool boys. And so the cool girls thought that was bad.
Maybe a bit of envy there.
Allegedly. I don't know. It's many years after boarding school, a mate of mine sat me down and he said, "You still don't get it, do you, Rollins?" Which is my maiden name. And I went, "Get what?" And he said, you were so natural and so unaffected and so genuine. You just were yourself, and everyone found that so endearing. That was, all of us fellas, like we kind of protected you and looked after you." And he said, and there was a lot of envy. We could see it, but you never could because you never saw your own value. Isn't it funny? So politics, girls, blah, 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 blah. And if I had just had enough social skill back then to understand that you have to sometimes simply acknowledge other girls and other women and their place and their space. That's all you need. But I didn't have that basic skill. You know how kids now, kids have better social lives now than I've had my whole friggin' life. What the hell? Like those little guys are plonked into daycare and taught how to socialise, and they're having better parties than I've ever had. They know how to do stuff, right? The time they're toddlers, they know. And I think all the way up until critical teenage years, I'd never been taught that skill because I was remotely based. So I don't think it was anyone's fault. I don't think it's just one of those shitty things that I was just highly under-equipped to be whatever I was supposed to be to survive an all-girls boarding school. So I was just, it didn't go well. Anyway, that was that.
Do you think and I love that that you were the boys, or that boy sort of acknowledged and identified to you your, I guess, which part of your values or your personality of being endearing. Do you think, and just the way that all sort of rolled, do you think that was, and that not being a tomboy, but just kind of being comfortable in that with the boys because that was just who you were, and and maybe there was a bit of, those girls are a bit weird and a bit immature and a bit kind of a bit gossipy or whatever it was. But do you think, did that sort of, was that a good sort of foundation for later in life? Did that give you, I don't know, insight into different things? Did you continue to be kind of on the periphery of social situations, outside of school, beyond school?
It's a good question. To this day, whenever I'm in a social situation and when I see someone come in who looks even just the tiniest bit not like they're fully present or welcomed, or they might be new, or they might be new in town, or maybe they're a little bit different, I just spot it and I pick it 1,000 miles off and I just scoop them up and say, "Quick, get in here." And I tuck them under my wing. I'm such a rescuer of people. So I think one of my greatest skills as an adult is I make people who don't feel part of the crowd feel part of the crowd. So I do for others what was never done for me, 100%. And I didn't realise that what a gift that was until I got older. And I think also when you have to learn politics the hard way, so even now as a fairly public figure, I'm still that same gregarious, outgoing, see, brain, there it goes again, that same gregarious, outgoing tomboy who says it like it is. I'm still a bit rough around the edges. I still am a bit of a bull at a gate, but I now have basic political understanding. And so I'll give you an example, right? If I enter a room today and I'm chatting to some person of importance and that person's wife is there, or partner of any, whatever, someone important to that human is nearby, I will stop what I'm doing and I will acknowledge that person and their place and their position, and I will defer to them and let them know, I see you, I see your position here and I acknowledge you, and let's be best friends forever. And it's really cool, just politics, you know, and it's not done for gain or an ulterior motive. It's done because people just want to be seen. And often I found that even when people were being mean, as I experienced way too much of, it's just because they didn't feel seen or heard, and the knee-jerk reaction from that often would lead to chaos. So yeah, I don't know, I am an acknowledger of all humans and yeah, a lover of the lost ones among us. And I believe just all of that stuff has just made me a very, very highly tuned in, empathetic lover of souls, which is good, and it's bad because it breaks your bloody heart on a daily basis, but it's mostly good.
Hard because you, attached might be the wrong word, but you obviously put the energy and the love and the effort and the focus on something or a situation which, you know, may or may not go in the way it might. Is that what you're sort of saying? That it's sort of like the effort can sometimes lead to, you know, I don't know.
Not the result you want.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess you tell me. Like you just, you know, you said that, you know, sometimes it's an amazing experience, and sometimes because of that, you can fall over. Yeah.
I reckon you just get empathy fatigue and compassion fatigue when you're built like I am, and it's, you know, it's interesting. You speak to any lived experience advocate, which is pretty much what I am. There's other fancy words for people like me I can't think of.
What was that one
right
again?
now.
It was
a lived experience advocate.
Lived experience
Sadly,
advocate.
I'm a lived experience expert.
No, I love that.
But essentially, I drive advocacy around alcohol awareness based on life and experience, and it's very effective because it is straight from the rawest part of my very honest and very no-holds-barred gut, visceral level, right? I just shoot from the hip, say it how it is. The problem is because I delve into spaces where there is a lot of vulnerable, fragile, incredibly precious humans who have also experienced significant trauma. Yeah, you just get compassion fatigue. So advocacy is an amazing thing, but it's also a really difficult thing because some days you just literally fall to your knees and you just think, oh, I can't do this for one more day. I'm so tired and I'm so heartbroken by this story or that story. But then the next day you get a message from someone saying, guess what, Shan? I celebrated 2 years sober and I've got my kids and my family back because I follow your pages and thank you. And I'm like, damn it, I'll keep going. It's a roller coaster.
How do you... We've jumped straight to now, which is
sorry.
No. Don't be sorry. Let's stay with it. What? Because we'll get to sort of, you know, a bit more of the journey. But what? While we're on it, what is? How do you, when you get empathy and compassion fatigue? What do you do?
I've had to learn to put some very, very healthy boundaries and very healthy strategies in place. So, for instance, as I told you before, I've only done one podcast in the last year, and that will be yours, because I found that when I was doing them back to back, it was just leaving me bloodied and broken and just wrecked mentally. But that's only because I did too many for what I could cope with, because I didn't know my limits. So I've learned to only take on certain speaking roles. I've learned to I've learned to say no a hell of a lot. I also had to learn to disconnect from the intensity of situations. So, for instance, I used to run Zoom meetings where I would be face-to-face with other people in recovery and donate a night of my week every week. And I got to a point where I was like, I actually can't do this. It's just crushing me. So I've had to learn to just go, what can I cope with and what can't I? And that's all I can do, and that's fine. Another practical example is quite often I find when I'm in a social situation and people have been on the grog, ironically, and it happens all the time at funerals and weddings. I'll go to an event and people are just drunk enough to come to me and say, hey, thanks for what you're doing. It's really interesting. And ... And I know what's coming after the ... And then they're going to tell me about a loved one or themselves and their battle. And I'm at a stage now where I see the ... and I know what's coming, and I actually step back and I say, listen, I know you're about to share something with me that's really difficult. I actually probably can't have that discussion with you tonight because I'm really, really tired. And I'm so sorry. I'm not in work mode. I'm here with family.
And it's a funeral celebrating someone's life, or it's a party a wedding celebrating someone's marriage, and so.
Yep.
Well, I guess that's kind of
tricky,
with your lived experience advocate. That's kind of, you're a magnet, that people go, oh, there she is. There, I've got something. I mean, it's kind of so that's maybe a nice to know, a nice to have, but at the end of the day, that's a huge responsibility, isn't it?
And look, there was a time there where I gave virtual strangers my whole night. I could do it. I had the energy and I had the capacity.
I just broke your pen.
Oh, you bad man. That'll be $5, Charles. Bloody hell.
I won't steal that Qantas cup now.
We'll talk about that later.
Oh, no.
And look, like there was a time and a place where I could do that, and I happily did. But I recognise, because God bless sobriety for teaching me how to recognise stuff, I started to see I wasn't coping in certain situations. Like it was like the shutters would go down and I'd recoil physically and go, no, please don't do an emotional dump on me because I'm so tired, and I'll start crying and I just need to be here for the funeral, family or whatever it was. So now I'm just as kind about it as I can. And if I recognise someone's going to come at me and maybe share a really traumatic story or ask for advice or whatever, I'm now pretty good at saying, can I beg of you that you go to our website and have a really good deep dive, because everything in my heart and my soul and all of the things I've spent 10 years putting together are there. And that's just the best way I can tell you to go and have a delve into this.
Did you flick them a little business card? Or did you have a little thing
I just say literally go to soberthecountry.org. You can listen to. You can watch bloody TV and podcast until you're sick of the sound of my voice. But I just am now honest with people and I say, I just can't do it tonight. I'm so sorry. I'm just maxed out. And people are really, really respectful of it. Yeah. And having said that, I don't always defer it and I don't always do that. Sometimes I will sit with someone for hours and hours, but sometimes I can't. So I just am really frank about that.
Does that make you a bit anxious about going to public events and things? Like, I mean, you're at an event to do a speaking gig. Do you feel sometimes it's like, or people feel like you're there, of course I can have a chat with her, or, do you avoid those situations sometimes now?
No, I just go in with my eyes wide open and
you've got a strategy kind of thing now.
Yeah, and I actually say in my speeches now, I say, listen, P.S. I'm going to talk about some stuff here that might be a little uncomfortable and a bit triggery because it's traumatic. If it makes you feel yucky in your tummy, feel free to get up and walk away. Please feel free to leave the room. I may talk about sexual assault. I may talk about trauma. I may talk about addiction, and you might love someone who's going through it. You might love someone who's experienced sexual assault. Don't know, but I promise you I'm not going to be offended if you have to take a healthy break and step out of the room. And so even just by doing that, I'm giving people and it's so important you do that. I'm giving people permission to not feel guilty. Then later on, if a situation arises where I have to do the same, I say, how I spoke about having to step away, I'm going to have to do that now. And it's no offence to you, and it doesn't mean I don't want to grab you and hug you and scoop you up and give you all of my energy, but I'm just tired.
Well, I mean, you're setting boundaries and a few ground rules because what you're doing is in those social situations is you're extending yourself and being the advocate of your lived experience, and so I guess there has to be.
You hear it. Sorry.
No, go.
No, you hear it all the time. You hear it all the time from particularly frontline pioneering type humans, which is what I've been branded quite a lot in the bush. I'm pioneering something. Not that no one before me has ever done sobriety in the bush. There's people falling out of trees successfully who've recovered from addiction in the bush. They're amazing people everywhere. But I think that it would be fair to say I'm quite unusual in the sense that I've gone very public and very relentlessly so, not because my story is unique, but because it's actually horrifyingly common. And I lost my train of thought.
Well, you represent a lot of
talking about
different.
Far out, doesn't matter.
You know what? I do that. I reckon every second interview I do that, and I'm about to ask a question. I go, so tell me. Oh.
Tell me what.
Just tell me something while I remember the question.
I know. You know what you have to say if you go blank. Just say how many cats equal a dog.
To myself or to the other person?
No, to the other person. Just say, listen, just wanted to ask your opinion. How many cats do you think equal a dog? And that's my favourite question to ask.
I'm going to write that one down.
When everything's getting a bit intense in the world, or you're dealing with a menopausal woman whose brain just went...
No, well, I'm not even menopausal or a woman, and I do that.
You might have menopause.
That's menopause. Is there a thing?
Menopause.
The menopause.
How many cats equal a dog? P.S. The answer is 7.
Is that based on live weight, or is it like?
It's based on how excellent dogs are. And my brother-in-law Richard's expert opinion. He asks this question of everybody, and it just leads to these endless debates that go all night long.
I love that.
Yeah,
how many cats
7 cats equal 1 dog. Apparently.
But then you'll have people argue that.
Of course.
And they go, no, it's 7 dogs equal a cat.
Yeah.
And then you get those people.
And then there's cat and dog rage, and then there's debates, and then there's breakout
Then the
debates.
Mathematicians will sort of turn into fractions.
Yes. Yeah. And it goes all night. So, go. You can use that one.
I love that one. I'm going to make a little asterisk next to that. So tell me... so let's get back to some chronological order. No, don't be sorry. I love it because these things are obviously need to happen at those times of the conversation. No, totally. This is not an A to B. This is not linear. So finished school.
Oh, bloody hair.
Had your experiences at school. Finished up there. Did you go home? Did you went away? You know, what was the next little bit? Chapter?
Did you just say, did you went away?
Did you went away? Oh, no. Did I say that? See, I'm having menopause. Or did you went... Did you go away? Did you went...
So cute. I'm so sincere. Did you...
That's what my 5-year-old says.
Did you went away?
Or maybe I meant to say, when did you go away? And I kind of got it all asked up.
Oh, that's excellent. I'm so glad it's not.
It was like, well, you went away. It was like cross between a question and a statement.
And now everyone knows I snort.
And I can't. And I don't have proper grammar like.
Jeez, I tell you, so this is why. This is the mid-afternoon stuff on a Friday. Our brains are cooked. Okay, all right, back to
did you went away when you left school?
I did went away. People listening are going to be going, it's not that funny. But they're not sitting here at 3 p.m. on a Friday giving of themselves generously.
They could be walking or running or driving or God knows what.
They're just going, shut up, you losers. All right, I went away. I did. Okay, so
see, I was kind of answering your question. I went away. I kind of was doing the prompting.
Oh, more of that, please. That's bloody excellent. I love stupidness.
It'll just roll out of me.
It's good stuff, mate. I love a bit of comic relief.
Bit of went away.
Okay, so to answer that amazing question, yes, I did. I did exactly what all kids are supposed to. Honestly, I'm a friggin' cliche. I'm such a walking, talking cliche. I did exactly what all boarding school kids do. Yeah.
We'll help each other.
Please, I need so much help. Mm-hmm. So I took a gap year. before I embarked upon the real world. And yes, and I wanted so very desperately to work with animals, horses, livestock. So the natural fit was Jillaroo, which I desperately wanted because I had seen my big brother, who I just unconditionally worship and adore to this day. I'd seen him go to the territory and come back a man and with muscles, and he was just the coolest guy I'd ever seen in my life. And I was like, I want to do that. So I went off and pursued stuff, including a trip down south to work on a stud. A place. And then another place later on. So I spent a year doing horsey stuff, as young bloody girls I want to do. But yeah, so in summary, Charles, that year was pretty bad for me. So that year, which was in my mind going to be terribly glorious and romantic and would probably see me meet my future husband and all sorts of things, actually ended up being a total disaster. And I'll try and tie this in for your listeners without dragging it out, but a lot of addiction stems from trauma. And for me, the gap year for me was a trauma year, which basically, if only people could see my face. So unfortunately, I didn't land in a good place, and I was unfortunately raped by some people that I should have trusted. God, I don't know how to ever say this without it not being horrendous to listen to, but yeah, so I lost my virginity on a station to people I should have trusted. And then there were multiple sexual assaults off the back of that. And so, yeah, my gap year was pretty horrific. And I was just a baby, and I'd come from a very, very, very loving, secure background. And so all of those things, were pretty much going to set me up for a pretty bad decade to follow. After going off and doing this disastrous gap year, I thought, well, I better follow through and go to university, which I did in Canberra. I don't know why. Strange. I think, we were of that era where everyone said you've got to go to uni. So I just did.
Gap year, off, and then like, get it out of your system.
Go.
And then go and do uni, which is why I did the same thing.
Right.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
so bloody predictable.
And then did you go to uni going, I think I should go to uni, but I'm not actually sure. What did you do? Journalism, did you?
Idea.
No.
I wanted to do journalism because that was a natural fit. Didn't have the marks, so I did. And here's a bit of light humour after that heavy bit. So I studied office management. I still don't even know what that means. I have a Bachelor of Arts in office management. I don't know what it means. I just know that I learned to touch type and get really, really drunk. That's all I can give you.
And you were in Canberra, did you say?
Yes. Yep. And I rocked up there, as I now understand, a cute, pretty little thing with blonde, bloody long ponytail and Cuban heel cowboy boots and my checkered shirt, and I was a total fish out of water. But bizarrely enough, after experiencing not fitting in at boarding school, for whatever reason, when I landed at university, I was totally instantly accepted. So weird, right? I don't know why.
Which uni?
University of Canberra.
Okay, interesting. I'll just add to something in a minute. But no, go on. This is great.
Well, yeah, and so I don't know what the bloody hell happened because it's all.
Were there any other country kids there?
There were some country kids there, and I fell into that crowd instantly, as you do. But even as in such a short space of time, in that gap year of mine, I had, especially after the traumatic stuff, I had discovered that if I drank alcohol, it made me feel less nervous or scared or socially awkward. And I was all of those things all of the frigging time. I still felt like a misfit, still felt like a big, stupid, weird, bloody person who shouldn't even be on planet Earth. But when I drank, all of those feelings vanished. So I drank more. Anyway, enter the alter ego that would emerge to stay with me for the next 2 decades, which was this wild, crazy party girl who kicked off an illustrious career in Canberra, sculling out of one of my boots, doing a shoey, performing like a monkey for the rugby club, I think, from memory, or that crowd. And one of my strange superpowers is that I can scull quicker than most humans
pretty good.
on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was an awesome party trick. And so I literally...
Most boys would say that's a superpower.
Oh, mate, and I could outskull all of the boys. And here I was, this petite little blonde just going gluk and putting away a schooner for party tricks and then another 4 schooners and then they'd all carry me home and put me to bed and we'd repeat that, ridiculous. But I remember I was Fresher of the Year in my first year of Canberra, which for the uninitiated means you are the official drunkest person on ground, and an entire intake of new students. And that was very much a cause for celebration because everyone wanted to be Fresher of the Year. So all of a sudden my drinking's made me cool, it's made me popular, it's made me all these awesome things I've never been. So I kept drinking. I kept that up. Because,
and understandably too, like if I can say that, because if it gave at that vulnerable age, 19, we're all looking for acceptance. We're looking for a position, a spot in the culture, the social sort of
I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be the cool girl, and suddenly I was. Well, anyway, for a minute. Sorry. Hang on. So yeah, that was where Party Shanna was born. Geez, I took to that pretty well. Goodness gracious. Anyway,
and then so that was a theme for a period of time, and you, apart from that, life was more study. Did you do a journalism? What's the word? When you do a journalism course, did you?
I did stupid weird office management. I don't even know what I did. So you used
a degree. You know that was the course.
When I left.
Yeah, when you left uni, did you then go because where did your journalism skills sort of?
Oh yeah, that was all self-taught pretty much. Yeah, so off the back of uni and learning how to be the drunkest person in the cosmos, I wanted to get back into ag. I wanted to be back where I belonged, amongst, oh dear, country people with checkered shirts and stuff like that.
Your tribe.
My tribe. Yes, my tribe.
RMs, Mollies?
Yeah.
Mollies?
I think.
Did you wear, because the thing back in our day, the girls were like fob chains.
Oh, God, don't even. Yes.
Did you have them?
Yes, I friggin' did.
That was like
so embarrassed.
You had to have one of them. The girls had to.
If you went to boarding school, you had to have a fob chain and pearls, and you had to wear Liberty.
Liberty, yeah.
And do you know what? I don't own pearls or a fob chain or Liberty to this day. I will not.
No, because is that like memories of, and you go.
Yeah, it's just a small act of rebellion, but I will no longer conform.
Great.
To fit in.
Totally.
So now I'm just plain Jane, and very happily so.
So not plain. Stop doing that.
I am, but I am. I like it. I am. Anyway, so I buggered off back into the ag sphere. God, Charlie, you're testing this, buddy. Oh, sorry.
You can jump 20 years if you want.
I will skip. I'll skip 6 years.
Yeah.
I went back to northwest New South Wales, and I walked straight into a horrific relationship which lasted for 6 years. Common, boring cliche. You've been treated like a certain way, so you expect that's what you're worth, and so you fall into a disastrous situation, which I did, with a character who was not particularly good or loving or kind. And so whatever damage had been done in that gap year was then just perpetuated to infinity and beyond. And my drinking, I now understand that person was an alcoholic, and so heavy drinking was really put to the forefront of that entire chunk of my beautiful youth. All of these behaviours were now being reinforced and hammered home, basically. So I was fortunate enough to escape that situation in my mid-20s. I went to Brisbane and worked for an ag chem company, which then saw me pinged back out to the bush for another ag chem company, would you believe? And that's actually how I ended up back in the south of New South Wales, near your part of the world, with another ag chem company. I don't know what the hell I was doing. I think I was just whoever would employ me, to be honest. And I was the shittest sales rep you've ever come across in your entire life. I'm going to tell you a funny story about there was a client from Young.
Oh, really? Okay. As a client from Young, we don't need to mention names, but an agent, like a stock and station agent.
A reseller.
I can guess.
My job was to go to resellers and say you need, get product sold, as you do when you're an ag chem sales rep. And this particular character was known for being quite difficult to get deals over the line with, a bit shrewd, bit savvy. And I rocked into his office one day, and this really summarises 5 years of my life, I tell you. And my dear friend, who he is a friend now, he said, so, Shanna, why should I buy this product from company X? Is it because they have R&D behind them, or is it because of this or that? And I guffawed and went, no, it's because if you don't buy 2 pallets from me today, I'm so going to get the sack. Please, can you just buy some stuff? And he cracked up laughing and he said...
Well, you were honest. You were being honest.
He said, are you for real? And I went, yes, I will. I'll probably get sacked. I'm not very good at my job and I really need you to buy some stuff.
My numbers aren't good this month.
Anyway, listen to that evil cackle. And he goes... Based on the honesty of that answer, how many pallets do you need? And I went, can you get 3? And he goes, yeah, no problem. Hysterical. Anyway, he's a mate of mine to this day.
That's a classic.
I was so bad at that job. I can't tell you how bad I was at anything to do with KPIs, performance, numbers, sales. I was shockingly bad. And if my old boss is listening, I'm so sorry, mate. God, you must have got ulcers over me. But I always had this big heart and this good intent and this personality, and I somehow skated through these.
Well, I mean, in that sort of scenario, I can imagine that, in that office scenario, you're being totally honest, that it wasn't so much the sales pitch, it was more the personality. And I know in agriculture, here comes party girl, turns up selling some chemical. Of course we'll do that because you'll probably stick around and go for a beer later on or something. Was there an element of you didn't need to sell like a normal salesperson because you were able to kind of, in that world of expectation or she's fun.
Oh, and it was totally a male-dominated arena. There were not many women doing my job. So I dare say that I was a novelty and I got excused for a lot of things because I was a cute little blonde wild thing and I did stuff that, I'm sure any man in my position could never have been, given free rein. So I used that power of being a girl, I suppose, in that situation. But in the end, it was not a good thing to do because it kept perpetuating and setting up this thing that I had ingrained to me all my life.
Reputation?
Reputation, I didn't take myself terribly seriously, actually. And so why would anyone else? So I wasn't taken very seriously as a professional. I was a good, fun party girl. And I still remember I was at one of these endless, infinite bloody parties in one of these endless, infinite small towns that I lived in because I was running and running and running and running and running from myself. But, Charlie, turns out wherever I ran, there I was. Stupid bloody me. So I was on the run constantly. And I think one night I was bemoaning my, single status and, someone else was getting married or someone else was getting pregnant, and I was sort of getting to that pointy end of things as I was getting into my late 20s where all the people were doing all the normal things that people did as they grew up and whatever. And I was having a whinge going, bloody hell, why can't I find this? And someone kindly said to me, well, gee, Shane, we sort of all, it was a guy friend, he said, the guys kind of want to be with you, but they want to marry that girl over there because she's not quite as wild, if you know what I'm putting down. And I was like, what? And I remember being utterly brokenhearted, but it was kind of
what you needed to hear.
It was what I needed to hear because I wasn't, my behaviour was so outrageous by this point. I was now in my late 20s. I was pretty outrageous. I was doing some really stupid, risky stuff. I now understand these are all the glaring, boringly flippant obvious red flags of someone with unresolved trauma who's drinking excessively, whether it's high risk-taking behaviour or promiscuity or all of the above amplified. I was doing all the things I now can see at 1,000 paces in young women who are not okay, but I couldn't see it in myself.
Did anyone approach you at any time, friend or stranger, and go, "Hey, what's going on?" Did anyone's kind of courageous enough to step up and have that chat?
Yeah, a couple of people were starting to, but I'd also developed the capacity at that stage to push away anyone who got too close. So I was in that extremely boringly cliched place of being untouchable, because that's how I made myself. It's such the paradoxes of a person like me in the place I was were that I wanted love, but as soon as that became a reality, I pushed it away. I wanted kindness. As soon as that became a reality, I bolted. So the things I wanted were the things I avoided, and it was just this crazy self-fulfilling prophecy of I want that, but I'm not worth it. I need that, but I don't deserve that. So sad. It's so sad. And you see it all the time. It makes me want to cry, because I was still a good kid at heart, but all of that trauma, all that drinking, all of that dreadful treatment, behaviour, reinforced stuff about worthlessness, it governed everything. So I think I was then suddenly 10 years had gone past, and I now freely refer to my 20s as a decade of disaster. Can't remember half of it. Got my heart broken that many times. Broke a few hearts along the way too, because God forbid someone showed that they were going to fall in love with me. Crazy. And so I did another sea change and packed my entire life up and thought, I'll go to the desert. That'll fix me. I'll go to the desert. I'll go to Alice Springs, which is now, I understand, where all lost souls go. So I went to Alice Springs to be a tour guide, because a mate of mine had gone up there to do the same thing, not from a dysfunctional perspective, purely because he was a mad adventurer. And he'd been emailing a few of us, because we didn't have social media back then, saying, you guys, you need to...
Oh, no, he'd been faxing you.
No, no, we'd moved to email. We'd progressed. And, we'd get these emails. Guys, you bloody need to get up here to the...
Did you have to go to an internet cafe to do it?
Yeah, bloody oath, yeah.
Because no one had
No, there was no Wi-Fi, God no.
Where's the internet cafe around here?
Where's the cafe?
That's a classic.
Yeah, so anyway, I responded to one of these emails and said, oh, do you reckon I could be a tour guide? Because, of course, I was ready to run again from another broken heart and another disaster. And the reply came back saying, yeah, you'd be an awesome tour guide. Anyway, of course, the person sending those emails was my mate, Shanna Whan, who I'd known since I was about 20.
Oh, you had known Tim for a while?
Yeah, I'd known him for a long time.
Really? From up here, from this part of the world?
We worked for the same company at one stage, so we'd cross paths. Yeah, nice. He was just Whanny. He was a really nice bloke. Therefore, I was not interested, because he was really nice, decent. Yeah, right. Yeah, good guy. I was like, ew, boring.
Like North Pole, South Pole, like not...
Whatever, Whanny.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Not him.
Not him. Anyone but a nice guy who was going to treat me properly. Yeah. Anyway, so I answered this email from Whanny, and he said, yeah, no, you'd be great at it. One thing led to bloody another, and he said, look, slip up to Moores Creek on your way to the Territory and pick me up. I'll keep you company on the road trip. So where we are right now is where I drove through at the age of 30 in my busted old Longreach ute, which was my pride and joy, by the way, because it made me independent, and Stevie from McLeod's Daughters, who's also disastrous. And I came straight past this little church in my old shitty ute and picked up Whanny.
Was he at the church?
He was home next door.
Is he talking about coming home? A grey ute just turned up.
Oh, you're shitting me. That's Tim Whan.
Isn't that funny?
Hysterical. He's never home early, ever, in the planet. Maybe we'll hit pause and we'll come back. How funny is that? I'll send him to his mum and dad's.
No, he can stay. He can absolutely stay, sit,
really?
spa, keg. So
he
fine.
Won't do that.
Yeah, no, I don't want him having to piss off. Not at all.
Piss off, Whanny?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, out from this house next door, from his mum and dad's house, walked Timmy, and he gave me his smile, his full, I call it his double fang smile, all his fangs. And I went, oh, shit. I missed this. I missed this one.
You haven't seen him for a while?
No.
No, we'll keep rolling.
Look at him strolling down the concrete path. There. Oh, my God. G'day, mate.
G'day, Tim. What's going on? We're going to keep rolling. We're just going to have a hello. We don't do any editing here, Tim. Now, for those who are listening, I haven't met Tim before.
Charlie, meet Tim.
Hey, Charlie.
Hey, mate, come on,
How are you, mate? Good. How are you going?
Thank you for
Supplying.
letting me borrow Shan for a
Hey,
while.
Shanna.
I need to do a wee. Can you sit down for a second, talk to Charlie?
Yeah, why don't you come and
Just
come
say
in?
stuff.
You're straight
What are
on.
we doing here?
Literally, I was just telling Charlie about how I answered your email about tour guiding.
It was a classic because she just said, and I drove past here, and you said, and Tim had just got home. This is like how many years ago?
Yeah, 20.
20 years ago. And then I go, and then Tim's just
Right, you-
reenacting it by just turning up
Oh, yeah.
right then.
There you go.
Charlie.
Who would have thought?
While Shan drains the spuds, we can continue.
Well done.
So let's pick it up. So
Okay.
while she can't hear, because she won't listen to this, so she won't know what you say. So she said he never comes home early.
Well, yeah, no, I rarely get home at this time of day, but I sort of thought, bugger it.
You thought, bugger, there's some weirdo at our
yeah.
house talking to her.
Yeah, better get
Check
home.
this out. You know, you see me on the CCTV up in the corner there, and you're going, "Who's this? A bloody bloke somewhere there?" So you're out. Where were you? You were.
Oh, out at Walgett today. So I've been, down at Narromine and then across to Warren and Corinda, Walgett last night, and back here today. Yeah,
How's the season out there looking? How's
bloody
Walgett?
dry out west there at the moment. Well, the moisture's not too far down, but they need a good 2 or 3 inches out there, I reckon, to have a good go at it.
We had cattle on a discipline at Walgett, and Nick Mace won't mind me saying so because that's where they were, just south-west of Walgett. We had some of our cattle out there for a few months, and then it got really wet and we couldn't get them out for a few extra months, so they had to stay. And then you had to put them on a neighbour's place because it was just so wet.
Yeah. Oh, there's plenty of feed out there now, so that's not the drama.
There's feed? There's feed?
Yeah.
Okay, good drive. Oh, lovely. What have we got here?
Non-alcoholic etch. Beautiful.
Oh, awesome.
Crack that sucker.
You might have to remind me that we're still rolling because
Yeah, I know.
I'll be all over going, so tell me, and then I walk out, so let's go and get in the keg, and there's like, hang on, that thing's still rolling.
What are we making here?
Podcast. Charlie does a regenerative ag podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what? What time is it?
It's 4.
Do you want to take the dogs for a run and a swim,
Yeah. Yep.
and then have a keg?
You'll have to put some clothes on because Shan was saying you usually go swimming in the nude.
Yeah, he loves it. He nudes out.
Because we...
I'm regenerating.
Love you.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. These are delicious.
Yum.
These are...
Classic.
Get him on one day.
Oh, no, well, I did think whether we do the pair, but, yeah, I think
Very good.
Yeah, he's good.
Very good, actually.
Oh, I've been stalking him for a while now, don't worry.
How cute was that? Did you hear that? We'll edit all this out. Sorry, Charlie. And
No,
also...
we were. Tim, lovely to meet you. I'll probably see you before when you come back from your swim
Sorry, babe.
with the hounds.
I can't believe you got home early.
No, this is great. This is awesome. This is really good.
I love you.
We just got to remember where we got up to. Oh, no, yes, Tim arrived 20 years ago, picking Tim up and off to Alice.
All right, well, I'll just keep jabbering, babe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, how
so
funny is that?
you cruised past, picked up Tim, let's go to Alice.
Oh, block your ears, matey, because you'll get a big head. So cruised past, pulled up, saw Tim want, and literally thought, oh, goodness gracious, I've really missed something here.
So normal, nice guy.
No, just a damn good fella, like a really proper good fella. Hey, Timbo. And pretty good looking.
Oh, he is very handsome. Right?
And and it was such a funny thing because all of these years and all of these dramas and all of this horrendous stuff had happened, and I realised and recognised that there was this incredibly lovely human being who I'd never looked at sideways. And I probably reckon I fell in love on sight when I saw Timmy come out of the farmhouse
Here.
next door that day with all of his teeth and gave me his big smile, and I went, oh, shit. Oh, no.
He goes all right, this bloke.
He goes all right. I can't believe I didn't recognise what.
And you're going, I'm going to sit in the ute for the next 3 days.
Yes, and so I did exactly what I do, which is fall hard and fast in love with someone. God, I'm hopeless. But ironically, Timbo, so at that point in life, everything was starting to go pretty south pretty quickly. And Timbo knew I wasn't okay. He didn't know exactly what was going on, but he knew I wasn't okay. And his instinct was good enough to have his radar up going, whoa, what's going on here with Shan? And, yeah, like literally, I reckon I fell in love in record time. And
Before you got to Narrabri.
Just after, 5K down.
His head is getting bigger, isn't it? Look at it. It's getting bigger as we speak.
And Timbo, oh, God, anyway, the recurring theme was, Shan, you're a great bird, but no, like I'm not getting into whatever this is. And I'm like, what? How could you not want to be involved with me?
Yeah.
Anyway, and so began what I refer to as the most dysfunctional beginning of any relationship of all time on planet Earth, which was us going to the territory together, kind of not together. Oh, my goodness gracious. So ensued 5 years of me we were in the territory, then we were back home, we were back to the territory, back home. Meanwhile, my drinking had taken whole new proportions because let me tell you, Charlie Arnott, if you are a budding alcoholic, you don't probably want to go to the territory and become a tour guide.
No, I can imagine that would be a what's the word? Yes. I can't even think of the word. Not a hotbed. That's the wrong word. But yeah. You couldn't escape the grog up there.
You can't escape the grog up there. It's a state that identifies by its God-given right to drink itself stupid every day, any day. So basically everything went sideways pretty quickly, and my drinking escalated. And we haven't really discussed the particulars of all of that, but long story short is any sense of functionality was very quickly going out the window. And by the time we finally came back to the Northwest dysfunctionally together in our mid-30s, stuff was going pretty sideways pretty fast. So I got my man, quote unquote, came back to the Northwest to grow up and settle down because we were sick of being broke and exhausted. Ironic. Here I am. Sorry, it was side laugh to myself about being broke and exhausted. So we came back and had a crack at doing what normal people did, which is settle down, get married, have a family. But none of that happened. Let's fast forward this bit, shall we?
Yeah, sure.
You jump in. I feel like you need to lead
No. I just want you to take it and say what you feel you need and want to say. You don't have to say. You don't have to say much more if you don't want to.
It's all good. Look at that little scene.
Isn't that cute? Got his little shorts on. Took his work strides off. He's got his little shorts on there.
Got the old King G's on.
Hey, King G's
out the paddock.
And a little
Jack Russell going boing boing.
Little biscuit. Where are the other two?
Out ahead.
Biscuit's going. This grass is
too long. My belly, it's tickling. Oh, they're fun.
So back here, there was dysfunction, and there was a point, and I have listened to you speak before, and there's plenty of other and people want all the detail. They can check it out elsewhere. Oh, little Fleabag's back.
Oh shit!
Why? What?
No, she doesn't know.
They haven't gone. Yeah.
Yeah, what Timbo does is he forgets Fleabag.
Fleabag dragged the chain a little bit. Just for the listeners who...
He hasn't taken it.
Oh, right.
What
Oh, little Fleabag.
All right, sorry.
No, it's all right. So there was a time when you got to a point and went, right, something happened, Tim was there and you went, right, this is what I need to do something.
I need to sort stuff out. Yeah, so coming back to the Northwest, settling down, trying to do the thing that people do when they turn 35, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc. So we wanted to have a family. We just wanted to do all of the normal things. We got married. But the very, very long story short is that all of the catastrophic things that I had done from the ages of 20, to those mid-30s had really taken its toll, and my drinking was well and truly out of control by my mid-30s. And it's really interesting. I never, ever, ever really actually understood I was in full-blown addiction because I worked hard and I drank kale smoothies and I ran and I worked out and I had a job and I was a professional and I didn't drink every day.
You had offsets.
Yes, and I didn't drink every day. I didn't drink during the day. I didn't drink out of a brown paper bag, blah, blah, blah. I didn't drink till 5.
Yeah.
But what I had done is I had become one of those people who, as soon as 5 o'clock came, I was going to crack a can or a bottle of wine or whatever the hell was on the go. And in the end, I actually couldn't pull up. I was going to drink until I blacked out. So that's the sliding scale of addiction. Thanks for coming. One day you're 18, fresh-faced with the world at your feet, and the next minute you are contemplating taking your own life because you actually can't face living, but you can't quite face finding the courage to die. Terrible, terrible, terrible place. And that's where I was. And, you know, the catalyst for all of that was the fact that we couldn't have kids. Could never find a reason why. We tried assisted fertility, tried praying, tried fasting, tried detoxing, tried health retreats, tried everything. Went through long periods of, well, not long, but periods of sobriety, health kicks, you name it. But each time we would have a failure and a negative response, negative result, I would have a relapse into catastrophic grief. And that cycle was a couple of years, and in the end, I had the boring old cliche rock bottom moment, which for me was falling down a flight of concrete stairs. I had been at a Boxing Day. No, what is it, straight after Christmas? Yeah, Boxing Day, early 2015.
After Christmas.
Oh, my God. It's Boxing Day.
I can't talk properly, so don't ask me about bloody
Boxing
events.
Day.
Yeah, Boxing Day, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd been at Boxing Day again over the road here at Tim's mum and dad's with all the pregnant people and all the babies and all the toddlers and all of the stuff.
All the reminders.
All of the reminders. And I remember it was like in Dolby surround sound. I remember hearing the galahs. I remember hearing cricket balls on cricket bats. I remember hearing laughing kids. I remember hearing the sound of beer bottles opening, and it was really weird. I was having a bit of an out-of-body experience, observing these things, hearing these sounds and feeling completely and utterly disconnected from life in every way and going, I just don't belong here. And sorry, I always get emotional. And I sort of looked over the paddock and I saw Timbo, and he was holding one of his nephews, and I just saw the pain in his face of the grief of, will this ever be us? Will it ever be us? And I just remember I got up and I just left. I got up and I just walked through the crowd, just past everybody. I was like an automaton. Is that the word? Automaton?
Automatic.
I don't know, whatever. A robot, freaking robot, whatever. It was a robot.
Yeah. In autopilot kind of thing.
I was in autopilot. I walked through the crowd, hopped in my car, drove into town, drove to the bottle shop and got, I think, 3 bottles of wine and drove back to the house in town and proceeded to write myself off. And I'm pretty sure that day I was like, I hope this is the day I can end it. I just hope it's the day I can end this because I can't be this anymore. But it wasn't meant to be. So I came to, I don't know the details of what happened next. All I know is that I woke up in emergency the following day with Timbo standing next to the bed and tubes coming out of me, and I had a great big hole here in between my eyes. And I'd had a fall and another one, but I think there was a fair bit of intent there. Anyway, and that was my rock bottom of all of these things and all of these years and all of this bloody trauma and shit and misery and chaos and self-destruction and horror. It just led me to a point of going, wow, you are literally going to die. Like, you're going to die. If you keep this up, you are going to die. And I'd never really considered that in all of its horrifying glory before, because I'd been lying to myself and everyone else. I was in classic end-stage alcohol addiction denial. And I just realised that I had not much left to give, not many chances, if any. Yeah, my family, unbeknownst to me at that time, had been discussing my funeral. They were like, what are we going to do when Shan dies? What are we going to do with Fleabag? Like, they were literally discussing what they would do because it was that obvious I was going to die by my own hand or accident or otherwise. And so I tried one last time and I tried one last thing, and I actually rang a helpline, would you believe? And that helpline put me in touch with AA, and then AA put me in touch with a girl.
So you got out of hospital?
Oh, sorry, got out of hospital. Yeah.
So you sort of got through that bit?
Yeah, got through that bit.
Did Tim have any words with you after? Was he kind of...
Oh, yeah.
Was he at a point?
Yeah, so that was actually a very interesting thing because Timbo, and P.S., people who want to, this is all in our Australian Story episode, more about this.
We'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah. So Timbo, I still remember the morning after. Something people who love someone in addiction will always say is why do you do this? How can you do this? What are you thinking? There are questions everyone has. And the problem is we don't have answers. And so I was waiting for Tim that day to say, why did you, how could you, who, blah, 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 all the usual things I couldn't answer. And that next day I woke up and he was sitting on the side of the bed. We were back at home. And I just remember he brushed a strand of hair away from all the sticky, gooey, bloody mess in my face and I was waiting for it, and I was fully tensed up waiting for the question. And he didn't ask it. He said, you can't help this, can you, Shan? You cannot even help this, can you? And it was such a pivotal thing for him to ask, because for the first time he hadn't said why. For the first time he had said, you can't even help it. And I just lost it completely, and I just caved because I couldn't help it. And it was the first time I'd given myself permission to know that I couldn't. I was utterly powerless in every way, shape and form over alcohol. And I'd never really given that process full, due thought, or vice versa.
He'd almost created the space for you to have that
epiphany.
Yeah.
Slightly overdue epiphany. And a lot of people in catastrophic addiction will die before they get the privilege of that epiphany, because we will drink ourselves to death. But I was very, very, very fortunate. And so I took that epiphany, and that's when I rang a helpline who put me onto AA, who put me onto a girl. And they said, there's a support group just up the road from you, Dal. And, of course, it was the Sydney mob. And I went, where?
It's up the road.
And they said Tamworth, and I went, give or take. Anyway, so we drove 400 kilometres to meet a person. And that was pretty much the turning point for me, was driving 400 Ks to meet this girl and her husband who walked out of this AA room in this building. And I still remember as clear as anything, Charlie, this bloody couple walking out of that building, and it could have been Tim and me. And I was expecting the cliche and the stereotype. I was expecting some crusty old dude with holes in his coat who would weird me out. And I now understand that was an ignorant, horrible thing for me to even think, but that is what I had been conditioned to think. Now I know that old crusty dude with holes in their coat was the next bloody step for me. So I don't think like that then, but I still had all these rubbish bullshit stigmas, in my head about what addiction was and what it wasn't. And I did not expect a woman that could have been my sister and a bloke that could have been Tim's brother to walk out of that building, but that's what it was. And I often think that was a bit of a divine moment, actually, because it smashed a stigma. Big, hairy stigma was smashed then and there.
Because they're like us.
They're like me. They look like me.
Yeah.
They look like me. They look like me. And that connection was made anyway. And I went into that AA meeting that day in that building in that town, and I sat down, and my beautiful friend, who's of course a friend to this day, let a few people do their thing and share, which is all an AA meeting is, PS, folks. It's just people sharing what's happened to them. she said, Shan, would you like to share? And I remember going, whoa, and it's like everything went into tunnel vision and tunnel focus. And I was like, it's now or never, big girl. Yeah, you need to step up, you need to stand up, and you need to speak. So I did, and I've never shut up. No.
Thank God you haven't.
Look, honestly, mate, I stood up that day, and Timmy was sitting, and he was holding my hand. And people had been asking me for quite a few years, do you think, Shan, that you might be in trouble? You think you might be addicted to alcohol? Do you reckon you might be an alcoholic? Which we're not allowed to say anymore, but that's another whole story. But that day I stood up in that meeting, and I went, my name's Shanna, and I burst out laughing, and I said, I'm totally an alcoholic. Oh, my God. I'm a raging freak. Is
that the first time you'd actually said it to come out of your mouth?
I said it, and I just started laughing, and I said, I am an alcoholic. My name is Shanna, and I'm an alcoholic. And
was that liberating?
It was so liberating. I went from laughing to then crying to then sharing my story to then just telling the truth about my life in that meeting, in that room, in front of a bunch of strangers. It was like a totally cliche bloomin' American movie, and it was friggin' awesome because for the first time in my adult life, I told the truth, and there was something extremely liberating about that. And Timbo was just in tears. I just saw out of the side of my eyes, he had tears just streaming down his face. And that was a life-saving, life-changing intervention moment, whatever you want to call it. Not just meeting someone who looked and walked and talked and sounded like me, but to be able to share that I was what I was without fear of judgment or persecution or shame, because all the people in that room that day were the same as me, and none of them were judging. All they did was clap and say, congratulations, Shan, that's the most important thing you're ever going to say or acknowledge.
Can I just say, you just said it was the first time in your life you told the truth.
Yeah.
Which I don't disagree with, but I'd also hazard to say that for your life you had been telling the truth. There's a portion of a day, your life, whatever, that you weren't, your addiction. But when I think about what you've told me in this interview about the truth that you were about yourself in the boarding school, you were being Shanna, right? You were just hanging with the boys, you're a bit of a tomboy, and you stayed in your truth. When you spoke to that agent and said, I mean, you're pretty truthful, I need to sell some pallets, just to kind of frame that up. Like, no. I'm not saying what you said was wrong. No, I'm giving you. Yeah, that's right. I want to highlight to you as a individual. It's wonderful, and it's really important that you hear this. I'm sure you've heard it before, but I want to emphasise it. You had been probably one of the most truthful people that there is. Except for that bit. I know it's a big bit, but in terms of your integrity, in terms of your truthfulness with other people, right?
That's true.
That's a really big thing, you know.
Actually, thank you.
Your life has not been about untruths.
No, thanks, Charlie. That's a really beautiful clarification, actually, because people had always said to me, you are honest to a fault, you are truthful to a fault. But the one thing I couldn't be truthful about, thank you, was my addiction. That's the one thing I couldn't be honest about. Yes, and unfortunately that one thing overrode all else.
It's a big one.
Yeah, so it took, I would describe it as a gaping black hole where everything good and kind and honourable and decent and loving and hopeful and happy about me was just swallowed. And in the end, I've got to say, I was not a good human in my last, illustrious drinking days. All of the things about me that I now value and treasure again, integrity, honesty, lovingness, all of those things were stolen because you lie and you manipulate and you do actually become the antithesis of everything you've ever striven, whatever, to be. Whatever. I love it how we break these intense moments up with stupid words. Can someone
with a bit of novel grammar?
I strove. But it's really interesting, right? Shanna Whan today. Oh my God, my integrity and is everything. Like, it is non-negotiable. It is everything. And I lost that in my drinking. I really did. So yeah, the regaining of all of those core values and core beliefs and core things of who made me the beautiful person I was came back to me as soon as alcohol was gone. I literally started getting it back in days. But you know what? Whew, there was some work ahead. But the first step, and again, sounds like a cliche, the first step in my entire recovery, which will be ongoing for the rest of my life, because you don't come back from 3 decades of horror overnight, or even in a decade is almost the case where I'm at now. But that hope began restoring almost instantly. And speaking the truth was the first part of getting my Shanna-ness back. I am an alcoholic. I am totally not capable of drinking anymore ever again, or I will die. That's the first bit. And when I said to you a minute ago, you're not allowed to say alcoholic, in medical fraternities these days, they say it's too stigmatizing and we need to remove that word and say alcohol addict or alcohol use disorder or someone suffering with alcohol. So from a charity perspective, I'll put my CEO hat on for a moment here. That's how we will speak about it in the first instance, right? Because I understand that stuff and that language and that talk can actually impact people. But for me personally, as Shanna the human, I'll always say that saying that thing on that day was paramount for me, because a lot of people had said a lot of soft, fluffy things to me in the lead up to that day. Oh, Shan, it's okay. You've just been abused and you had terrible experiences and you're just a binge drinker and you're fine, Dal. You're right. You know what? I needed to be slapped across the face with the truth of if you don't stop, you will die. So it was actually a very important thing for me personally to identify in that moment, in that day, as an alcoholic. It actually really was.
Why is it is it like it's not politically correct to use that term? It's
not politically correct, but I think...
Why not?
In the medical fraternities, you will hear it spoken about very frequently that it is further stigmatising people who suffer alcohol use disorder or a problematic relationship with alcohol. And there's lots of phrases and terms that are now acceptable to use. And I see the fit. I see the place. I do see that. So it's funny, Sober in the Country as a charity, our philosophy is there's no one size. There's no one size that fits all. Nothing about addiction or recovery is linear. It is not black and white. It is 1,000 shades of grey. So while we respect the importance of language and terminology, and I can fully see why, and if someone had maybe gotten a hold of me at the age of 18 and said, Shan, I think you might have yourself a big raging case of alcohol use disorder, I might have listened. But that was not going to work with suicidal Shanna at age 40. I needed, Shan, if you don't stop, you're going to die. You are actually going to die. And I needed to take full ownership of that, which is why you'll always hear me qualify things with comma, but that's just me, underline, double score, bold. That's just me. What worked for me may not work for someone else. And I will always qualify and I will always clarify that, because I don't ever want someone to think their own journey to getting sober is invalid. You know? Anyway, there you go.
Everyone's different.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Everyone's different. And I get that and I fully get that. But I was a hard-headed, typical rock-bottom drinker and I needed a big, fat reality check. But having said that, right, I now call myself a recovered alcoholic, which is a no-no as well, because some people will sit here and argue until you're dead and bloodied in the gutter.
You never recovered.
That there's no such thing as recovered, right? To which
I say... Are they people that haven't been alcoholics? As in they don't really know that the landscape of that and they're just saying you're saying the wrong things, or are they coming from their own experience? And it's just interesting. Language is so important, isn't it?
But so important.
And people get so wound up about a few letters, you know.
Yeah, I've had people come for my jugular because I've dared to say I'm a recovered alcoholic. Okay, so again, let's precede this with for me, comma.
Yeah.
For me, comma.
Yeah.
When I say that, what I mean is I could never go out tomorrow and pick up a drink and drink normally, whatever that bloody even means in Australia. I could never do that. If I went and picked up a drink today, I reckon you'd be at my funeral in under 6 months. Yeah. I can't ever drink again.
Yep.
I cannot.
Yep.
It will kill me. However, the point is I don't want to, I don't think about it. I don't suffer the agonising torment and the mental obsession of alcohol addiction like I knew it, and I haven't done for 8 years. For me, when I stopped, I gave it away then and there in that instant. I really did, and I just don't have that torment and that agony. And I'm at a place in my life now where there's beers in the back shed here. You might have a beer with Tim when we knock off in front of me, and I don't care. I speak at events where grog is served. I don't care. I do not judge or envy or have any feelings about alcohol anymore.
You're not like looking sideways at that beer over there, no.
But I did.
That's an enormous, that just shows your strength of character and I guess, and conviction, no?
No, do you know what it shows?
What is it?
Thank you. It was never about willpower. It was always about willingness to admit the truth to myself that I couldn't drink again, and then learning to operate as a human who didn't want to. So there's this beautiful thing called the paradox of surrender. And when I surrendered that moment in that day, I went, you know what? I can't drink ever again and I don't want to. And I started to reprogram everything about how I thought. And I released any thoughts of ever thinking, gee, I wouldn't mind just one. And I started saying, if I have one, I will die. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I worked my guts out, mind you. I changed every aspect of my life, from where I went, who I went with, what I did, how I spoke, how I did social events. Like every aspect of my life was excavated from the ground up. I worked my bum off to change everything. And I was very willing and I was very honest, and I worked and I worked and I worked. And I believe through the process of working my guts out is how I got that freedom. So I didn't just sit there and go, cool, I don't drink anymore. I worked very hard.
A very conscious transformation.
Very much.
Of your whole life. Let's talk about transformations. Let's talk about Sober in the Country.
Yes.
It's Genesis. It's charter.
Yes.
It's significance to you and the rest of the world, because this is it's definitely a plug. We got Fleabag going, where's everyone?
Oh God!
It's a plug for a very, very worthy cause. Oh, little Fleabag's going, hang on, there's supposed to be 2 other dogs here that are not here.
She's blind and deaf and she needs to be around.
She's in really good condition.
She's unreal, aren't she?
She's not even really grey around the muzzle. They get really grey.
Yeah, she's such a dear.
Here he comes.
Here comes the big man.
So let's dive into.
Well, it's a good segue actually.
Yeah, totally.
Because people want to know how it started, and how it started.
Tell people. Don't keep that a secret.
Well, so I straight off the back, here's Fleabag drinking noisily in the background now. She doesn't know there's another water bowl right out there. She gets so anxious when she's separate from me that she won't drink. Oh God,
I've got to have my water near mummy. Where mummy's water is.
Oh my God, it's codependency flipping through the roof. I'm such a bad dog mum. They have no independence.
It's cute.
So I, off the back of meeting and finding that face-to-face recovery group so helpful, I asked a few people and they said, well, you should start one in your town. And I went, that's a great idea because I want to do something, because one of the fundamentals of, recovery for the uninitiated is helping others and being of service to others. Yeah, giving back, right? And I thought, well, I'll do that because I took a year off life to rebuild. I quit my job. I quit my, at the time I was a freelance photojournalist because I'd finally evolved into what I should have been all along.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was like, well, I have to quit all this because it takes me on the road, and on the road there are hotels and there are alcohol.
You were eliminating all opportunities
so I'm not doing any of that stuff until I'm okay.
Yep.
Oh, God, help me. Sorry.
No, this is a classic.
Timo, can you maybe be in charge of keeping these dogs? Would you do that?
Listeners, I hope you're still with us. I'm sure you are, because this is incredibly interesting and important. This is a classic.
There you go. Thank you. Sorry.
No, it's so fine.
Sorry, everybody in the world. Oh, goodness me. It is a long podcast, so.
No, it is. How are you going? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I just hope everyone's not in a coma by now. Do you reckon?
No.
Sorry, everyone, if you're in a coma. Wake
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Wake up. No.
Get up.
Get up. No, so, okay, I did what everyone suggested I should do. I'll start a meeting. Anyway, you wouldn't believe it, Charlie, but it was wildly unsuccessful.
And where was that, in Narrabri?
Yeah, in Narrabri.
So as in you said, I'm having a meeting here at whatever time, 7 p.m, turn up.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to put flyers up in doctors' surgeries and public notice boards. You're not allowed to
As a
advertise.
Representative of AA under that banner?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I did all the right things through AA because I'm now a goody-goody. Duh. I'm in recovery. I'm a good girl now. So I did all the right things. But, I spent about a year and a half opening and closing the church in the West, and very hopefully lurking in the corner, waiting for someone. And no one really ever came. And those that did came, I think I terrified them because I rushed at them with my arms out going, oh my gosh, welcome. There's someone else out there. Honestly, I was just bloody desperate for someone to just hang with and be with. And anyway, long story short is I got to a point. That's Timmy on his
No, it's
phone.
fine. No, it's so fine. No, totally. Unless he's like dealing drugs and he's doing about to drop off, and we hear the detail. No, it's so fine.
He's a loud talker like me.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so nobody came. And eventually I realised no one was going to come. And I thought, righto, okay, well, I tried what everyone said I should try. So I then started just writing a bit of a blog about stuff. I started sharing candidly about my experience because I'm a journalist, and I'd had a year and a half under my belt by then, and I thought, well, I'm not entirely lacking credibility anymore, so maybe I'll just tentatively, because people used to say to me, gee, Shan, you look well. Gee, Shan, you seem calm. Your skin's good, or I don't know, you don't seem like a crazy lunatic anymore. What's up, cuz?
Not realising what the changes you'd made.
No, because I was very secretive about it.
Yeah.
I used to just say, I'm on a bit of a health kick. And in the end, after nearly 2 years, I was like, right, I blow this for a joke. I'm coming out of the closet, honestly. And
So why did you stay in the closet?
I stayed in the closet because I was so frightened of what people would think beyond my immediate family. My immediate family were delighted and nearly catatonic with relief that I'd finally told the truth and had chosen to make changes. But I was pretty frightened about speaking in the wider realm because what would people think?
But what about what people would think made you anxious about that? Do you think, well, I would have thought, my naive sort of kind of perspective on that would have been people go, wow, that's cool. Like,
Well,
okay, that's cool. So that feels like support. Yeah, but I wonder why you thought they were going to think bad things or something.
I thought they might think, oh, my God, you dirty, rotten scumbag alcoholic. Yeah.
Right. So you'd acknowledge it. Okay. And then they go, I told you. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
okay.
what will
right.
they say? What will the gossip be? And you know what? Most people were just amazing about it. And the more I blogged and the more I wrote, the more people popped up out of nowhere and said, wow, Shan, that's really cool. Good on you.
Where was your blog appearing? Where did they get that?
Well, I'd created a Facebook page called Sober in the Country because one night I was sitting watching a stupid rerun of Sex and the City, which I turned off in disgust and thought, geez, I hate this stupid program. It's all just about women getting tanked and being promiscuous and shagging bad men. And I was like, that's ironic. And I thought, self, you need to write some stuff that's good and better than this trash.
You need to write a script for a TV show.
Right. And so I flipped Sex in the City on its head and came up with Sober in the Country.
Awesome, yeah.
That's how it came about. And so it was just a Facebook page. And then the response was really quite quick because, look, I mean, let's face it, I'm pretty funny, aren't I? I used to write funny anecdotes and I made, I guess, serious stuff into a bit of a humorous, more palatable thing. And people were then stopping me in the street and saying, gee, Shanna, I really enjoyed your post about such and such. And I'd say, I just don't know if anyone's even reading it. And they went, we just don't want to comment because people might think we've got a problem if we comment on your page. And I'm like, oh, really? Are you serious? And I'm like, wow, this stigma. Wow.
And were these people that had a drinking problem, or they just
random?
They just didn't. Yeah, okay.
It could have been
because they go, why is that person making a comment? Why are they reading that one? They must be an alcoholic.
Oh,
yeah,
Charlie,
okay.
did you see Charlie Arnott made a comment on Sober in the Country? Do you think he must have a problem?
Yeah, okay.
So that is how fierce and horrendous this stigma was. I say was because we're changing it. So I then thought, oh, well, I better start a private group so these people can come and chat freely. So what began as me trying to run a face-to-face recovery meeting took me online and then took us into a private support group so people could speak freely, and bloody one thing led to another, and next minute we're snowballing, and this thing that started off as a bit of a maybe, you shoulda, coulda, woulda, is getting a bit of momentum.
From all over Australia, not local. Yeah, I guess Facebook and wherever else.
Because a friend of a friend would tell a friend, and then they'd pop up. But then I started getting really fierce criticism from AA. Who do you think you are? What do you think you're doing?
That's interesting.
This is not how we do this. This is not how we do that. To which I then promptly said, hang on a sec, you guys. I fully respect, because there's actually some really, really, really clear boundaries in terms and conditions of being a member of AA. And I said, I'm actually not an AA member. I respect your boundaries. I respect your rules. So I'm no longer a member because I respect that. So I'm just speaking as a human who's chosen to recover out loud. That's all. I'm not dragging your name into anything. In fact, I actually recommend people come to you. So please chill. And they said, but what are you doing? You're doing this online. You don't do it like that. You do it face-to-face. And I said, well, actually, I tried to do things face-to-face for 2 years. It didn't work. So again, please understand, I'm just trying to do something to help those who can't get help. And at the end of the day, rural people in isolation can't be anonymous. So they can't go to meetings. And even if there was one to get to, they won't go to it because they're flipping terrified of who will find out about Charlie's red ute at the meeting at 8:30. I saw them walk into that hall. Yeah. And I still got critics and I still got flack. And then one day this great bloody dirty great thing called COVID-19 happened in the world, Charlie. And overnight, everyone who had previously run a face-to-face meeting suddenly understood the reality of isolation. Yep. And all of my critics vanished in a little poof of smoke. Or maybe a puff is a better word. A poof. Sorry, a puff of smoke. Oh my God.
I better put it in the show notes, all our new little things.
A little poof.
You know, it's interesting. You brought that up, because I remember reading. I think I might have posted something about Sober in the Country, and I can't remember what it was, and it was probably 12 months ago. And then I remember there was a comment on that post from someone, and it said something like, it mentioned AA. It says, there's an organisation called AA, and I can't.
A smart comment.
Yeah, smart one. Yeah. Almost saying
happens all the time.
Well, this is in light of what you just said.
Yeah, the critics.
Was interesting. I was like,
where's that coming from?
Yeah, it really made me interesting, because this is a really important topic, and like so many things that are really important and it can be really profound for people, when it starts being put into a box and starts being controlled and starts being kind of owned by an organisation, then it really takes away from the benefit, because if it's then not available to people, or there's rules and regulations, which I understand organisations have to act within a certain charter and so on. But I just found that comment fascinating, that it was like, isn't this a really good thing? Like, why would someone be critical of something that's a really good thing that's clearly helping people?
Because they haven't read the memo. They haven't read the brief.
Well, they're sort of stuck on their own thing, which is, again, everyone's journey and their own prerogative to do that. But I don't know. I find human behaviour just perpetually fascinating, in the good, the bad, the ugly, and all of it. So,
look, I have seen and experienced everything in this last 10 years, and that fierce criticism and that kickback. And ironically, the first thing I respond with now when people say, you need to get AA, and I say, hi, Joe Blow, thanks for your comment. Actually, a lot of the people whom we live to serve don't have that option. Yeah. We don't have meetings. We don't have face-to-face anything. So our charity exists to open up conversations around alcohol. And guess what? We actually have AA listed as a resource on our website, along with a bunch of others.
You're not competing?
We're not competing. No. We are here to make sure people don't die because they don't know there's support out there. And quite often we send them to you guys for support if your brand of support resonates for them. And if it doesn't, we give them
And
other
if it
options.
even exists in a town like Narrabri or some rural sort
or
of...
they can go online to AA.
Yeah.
The point is, right, we are not competing. We have no flipping interest in it whatsoever.
There's no room for competition.
Sober in the Country is here to drive awareness and advocacy. That is what we do. And our peer support group that we have today is filled with people who are a mixed bag of lollies. Some of them are AA members. Some of them go through a mob called Smart Recovery. Some of them read bloody Russell Brand's sweary books. I don't give a stuff who or what they follow. I just care that they know that in our peer group, they are with a bunch of like-minded rural people who need anonymity online if that's what they have to have. And it's so beautiful because no one's competing. We're all about collaboration. So, yeah, that kickback still happens, but less and less frequently, thank goodness. But isn't it interesting, as soon as COVID happened, it mostly dried up and everyone's like, oh, this is awkward. We were paying you out 2 days ago and now we're having an online meeting. We get it.
Yeah.
You know, our life is permanent ISO. That is rural Australia.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like, yeah, that's a good point.
This is, if you haven't listened to it, on our website, My Australian of the Year speech, which is 2 minutes long, covers all of this. I should have just played that and saved you a bloody 2-hour podcast.
No, I'm just adding to the resources that people can listen to and then find out about you.
Yeah, and we speak about that. We say rural Australians are 150% more likely to experience harm from alcohol than their city counterparts. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
150%, and only 17% of us will get help. So that
70% of rural...
17% will get help.
So what happens to the other 83?
We go off and probably die of alcohol-related deaths that we don't speak about. See, now you're going to get a whole new level of energy from me because I do find talking about the past very hard going, and I'm bored of the sound of my own voice when it comes to my own story, but what I'm hyper-energised about is what's coming.
Tell us about that. Tell us how people can support, get involved, access your resources, the support.
Sure.
Tell me how people can do that.
Well, so
people who are looking to get support from the resources because they want to approach their own situation differently now, as you did, and also for those who aren't necessarily needing those resources but want to support the cause financially or any other way.
So
give yourself a plug. This is really important.
Plug it out, pluggy. So, Sober in the Country today is a nationally respected not-for-profit, and our purpose is literally as simple as we are here with our job to make sure every single person in the bush knows it's okay to say no to a beer. That's our tagline. It's okay to say no. It's such a silly, insipid, nothing tag, and yet it's so effective because what we're doing is we're not going at people, bashing them over the head and saying you mustn't drink and you're bad if you do. What we're doing is we're going to the average Australian like Charlie Arnott and saying we don't care if you can have 1 or 2 beers safely. What we care about is that you make sure your mate who can't knows it's okay to say no. Yeah. And so it's an interesting thing. So I've learned after 10 years of being bashed silly and sideways by people who don't know our mission or our purpose is that you can never threaten anyone's God-given right to have a drink. But what you can do is appeal to their mateship and their camaraderie and their sense of Australian awesomeness, which is looking after a mate. So we have flipped everything on its head. And as our language now through the charity, that's literally it. Our job is to make it okay to say no to a beer. So what we do, Sober in the Country, that's what we do. We work through advocacy, awareness, education, and peer support. And we go out there into the wild blue yonder and we cast a net. We make conversations palatable. We make them friendly. We have broken open the hardest conversation of all time in the hardest demographic of all time, which is grog in the bush. And we do it by not being confrontational, by not being prohibitionist wowsers, saying you must, you shall not, you will not, blah, 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 blah. We just say, let's be better mates, can we? So we cast that net, and in that net of all these humans are inevitably going to be people in trouble. And those people in trouble will resonate with our language because it's user-friendly. And then we hope that they will come to our pages, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or whatever the hell it is, right? We've got stuff everywhere, or the website. Then we hope that they will find the section that says, do you need help? ? And in there, we have resources. We link in with organisations who've got the capacity to do what we can't, which could be a helpline. It could be a peer support group, which in our case is called the Bush Tribe. We have like a laser-focused peer support group called the Bush Tribe, which is country people helping country people. End of story. We're not there for our mates in the city because our mates in the city have got stuff we don't have out here. This is for isolated rural and regional and remote people who want to identify with other rural, regional and remote people, cutting back or quitting grog. However that looks for them, bam, that's our Bush Tribe. But beyond that, we work with mobs who do telehealth detoxing or, as I said before, counselling or other programs, alternatives to AA. We recommend AA, we recommend others. We just gather as many like-minded humans as we can who've got the capacity and the will and the want to help people. And we say, guys, you're not alone. You are not alone. So we are kind of like, Sober in the Country is kind of like the big group hug. And from there we say, if you're still struggling, you might need more help, you might need more support, you might need rehabilitation. And if you can't leave your farm or property, which 90% of us can't, or your small town or whatever it is, or your business, maybe you can work with these guys who do it via telehealth. So we're just trying to consistently get information to people in need so that they're not in the 17% and above who can't and will not get help. We want to make sure no one dies.
Have you got resources on there for people who have have friends, family members?
Yes.
And go, I think they need help, or how can I help?
Yes.
Is there sort of some guidance? Yeah. So that because that's I'm sure
it's a very big. It's our second most frequently asked question. What do I do if someone I cares for is struggling? Yeah. It's either you or it's someone you care about. So yes, we do. We've got a friends and families section. We've got really good links and connections through the website. And again, we're not reinventing any wheels here, right? Sober in the Country is not here to invent perfectly good wheels that already exist. What we're doing is we're recalibrating the wheel for bush conditions. So I've taken my lived experience to crack open the conversation and use language that makes sense to bush people to say, g'day fellas, you know what? If you have one and you can't stop till you've had 100, you might need to have none. What does that look like for you? We get that. We just speak like country people for country people. It's pretty bloody simple, right? Then when we catch them, we want them to get to the help that they need. That's all. So
interested in, because you may have an angle on this, the grog culture in the country versus the grog culture in the city. Is there a difference? I mean, I guess in the city there's potentially more help for those who are in that situation, and clearly there hasn't been in the country, and you are creating that support mechanism. But in terms of, is it a different culture, a different pressure, a different exposure to that? I mean, I kind of know from a country point of view the pressures, the parties, the drunk driving and all that sort of stuff, you know, because what's your view on that? Because I guess I'm thinking a lot of our listeners are not in the country. Yep. And so they may not not that one's better than the other or they're better or whatever. It's just different. So tell me about that.
So as I often describe it to people, right, addiction is the same and it manifests the same no matter where you live. You could be in Rome or you could be in Roma. Same goes, big nose.
Very similar towns.
Very similar. But it is the same, right? Someone struggling with addiction over here or there, ultimately how that looks will be similar. Yep. However, what's different is for country people, often our only source of social connection is the pub in our small town, or it's the back of the ute at the end of the day in the paddock, or it's the rec club on the big cattle station, right? In the city, when Charlie Arnott knocks off work, he can go to one of 50,000 bloody different things or places or points of relaxation. You might go to yoga in Bondi. You might go for a surf. You might go to the pub and drink for flipping 10 hours. Point is there's choice and there's options and there's things to do other than the pub.
Different distractions.
Whereas in the bush, You are kind of stuck with your small town, your small community, and generally speaking, a social fabric of grog.
That's kind of the glue, dare I say, the glue that keeps everyone social, engaged, like, oh,
it's
of course.
how we meet and greet and do deals and keep connected in the bush, right? Our pubs are the heart of our country communities. And a young bloke from Young who I met the other day said it so beautifully. He said, geez, he said, I'd love to see it get back to a point where our pubs are public houses of gathering, where it's not about getting shit-faced and falling over every time. It's about just being with others, because pubs are important for that. And I couldn't agree more. So generally speaking, in a small rural community, your options are the pub, or the back of the ute with a tinny, you know? We don't exactly have a plethora of options. And even when you think about whether it's picnic races, footy, whatever, it's all very booze-centric. And I know that happens in the city, but if you are a conscious human in the city who's chosen not to drink, you are going to have lots of face-to-face recovery groups. And if you want to go to the theatre, or you want to be a Bondi hipster, or you want to go to the movies, or to another club or another place or another school or another book club, you can switch it up and escape where you're at. You can't do that in the bush. You're stuck with what you're stuck with.
Yeah.
And it's really scary. I've seen this happen where friends of mine who have given up the grog, proper knockabout Aussie country blokes, lost their... I'll give you an example of a friend of mine, beautiful, brave fella. His wife and kids had to leave because of his addiction. And he came to us for help, and we were able to help him, thank God. And the first thing, when he left our house that day, I said, mate, when you leave and your mates get wind of what's happened, you're going to get phone calls from people saying, I'm coming to your house with a carton. And it's going to begin like that, and it's never going to relent. And it was the first thing that happened. Oh, mate, I heard about your missus. I'll be there with a carton. He had to say, no, you can't do that. Blokes in the bush not drinking are then cruelly socially ostracised, because people don't know how to function in the bush unless there's a beer in front of them in a lot of cases. We are evolving. Sober in the Country is changing that very quickly, which is an amazing thing. But sadly, there is still a perception that in order to fit in and be part of the group, it's got to happen over a schooner or the back of an esky, in a ute, or at the pub, or whatever it might be. So we have this complex social structure in the rural space that is bound and governed by booze instead of friendship, even though we know it doesn't mean people are nasty and they don't care for each other, but that grog factor is always there.
It's a focal point, isn't it?
Yeah, big time, big time.
Which leads me to, I went to, as you know, because you know why I'm up here, went to a funeral of a...
Hang on. She's going to keep doing that.
Get hold of it.
Timbo, can you call Melly, please, babe?
Is Tim hanging upside down on that thing? He's very patient.
Melly barks when she wants something, which is really bad dog behaviour, but we'll talk about that in another podcast.
I came up for a family member's funeral up to Narrabri today.
Yes.
And the pastor, whose name escapes me right now, lovely fella who is
Westman, Pete.
Pete, that's it, Pete. Lovely, lovely friend of
Mr. Manchie.
Mr. Manchie, Lionel Manchie, and spoke so eloquently about Lionel and their relationship and revolving around golf and just life, and lovely address he made. But one of the things that was, and funnily enough, what Peter said is what kind of it was, or maybe not funnily enough, maybe there was just not coincidence that what Peter said and the way Lionel, sort of one of his, I guess, principles about making decisions. And Peter said, you know, choice, not chance, determines destiny. And it was so poignant that, you know, the choices you have made, the choices you were making prior to your recovery, your transition, and the choices you made post, you know, have determined your destiny, you know, and what you've now created and the support you're giving and the life that you now have and the life you are giving, you're giving back to so many different people because of your efforts. And I just thought it was a really interesting thing that I heard that this morning. We were having a chat, this whole choice, not chance, decides destiny. I thought it was so fitting. And again, look, maybe that wasn't a coincidence that it was said today and we're having the chat, you know, made me think of you straight away, just going, well,
Isn't
the
that
choice. Yeah, it was lovely. Just the choices you've made. And it's, you know, this comes up in a few interviews, this whole thing about choice, and Viktor Frankl, his book, A Man's Search for Meaning. It's a wonderful book. And to summarise it in one line or two lines is basically that's one thing that no one can ever take away from us is our choice.
Yep.
And I guess we have to be in a, you know, we choose things in a good or a bad headspace and so on. But, you know, it is one thing that undeniably we always have. And sometimes we make bad choices and sometimes we make good choices, but it's always up to us, which always comes back to self-responsibility.
And you know something? It's a really good point that you make. I didn't chose.
We're having we are racking them up.
Too late in the day.
I didn't choose this. No. It is good though. It keeps breaking up the intense bits.
It's a good point, right? I did not choose to be assaulted by the wrong people. I did not choose what happened to me when I was an 18-year-old kid. By the same token, I had to make a choice down the track to either keep going and self-destruct and die or to choose an alternative. And I think it's so important that people battling addiction, I mean, I understand better than anyone the heart and soul of trauma in that, right? You may not have chosen a terrible thing that happened that led you ultimately down this horrific path, but there will come a point where you do have the choice to work your guts out, to be willing to work and change. That is a daily choice that can be made, but I believe it can only be made when there is information and education and an accessible conversation delivered with empathy and love and kindness instead of the revolting stigmas that surround addiction. And as I often say, Charlie, in the bush, we literally glorify alcoholic drinking. We literally revere the girl who can scull a beer out of a boot and outdrink the next bloke. We literally laud it and applaud it, and we love it. But when that person steps to the other side of the fence and says, I can't drink anymore, I'm addicted, we are shunned and we are shamed. It is so unbelievably twisted how that happens in the culture of the bush. And so that is what I strive day and night to affect change around, is when our mates are choosing sobriety, we have to dig in and we have to say, that is awesome, mate. How can I help you? Not this old behaviour of, oh, come on, mate, have just one won't hurt you. Actually, some of us, if we have one, we're going to die. It's not even funny. And we don't know that because we don't talk about it. And when our mate says one won't hurt you, they don't even know what they're saying because they've never been told.
They've never had that hurt themselves, so they kind of don't get that.
Never, right? Or they're uncomfortable about Shanna saying no, because if Shanna said no and realised she had addiction, what does it say about them?
Well, if you've got the courage to say no and they don't, it kind of shines a light on them, doesn't it?
It's uncomfortable. It's the mirror effect. Yeah. And so that is why we just keep ploughing through with compassion, with thoughtfulness, with care and with love. And I tell you what, Charlie, some of the most incredible things I've seen happen in this conversation and in this space are with bush fellas. And you know how we were speaking before about regenerative ag? Holy moly, I love regen humans. It's a new love affair. Let's talk about that. Can we?
Yeah, no, totally.
Oh, regenerative ag. So like I said, it's a bit new to me because I grew up swimming in channels full of endosulfan. Happy days. Wasn't really.
You'd have been free of fleas and lice and heliothis anyway.
Yes, I did not have any heliothis. I didn't understand, right? The reason I so love regenerative ag, because I now understand the principles and I understand the intent, is I believe that without regenerative people, how can we ever hope for regenerative ag? The two go hand in hand like peas and carrots. And I hear and see over and over and over again people in the broader spectrum speaking about regen, but then they won't have a focus on regenerative humans. And I'm like, well, hang on a tick. And you and I both know my beautiful mate, Matthew Tonkin.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up.
Little Maddie. I love him. And you know he's
a
going
good
out with
guy.
my bestie. How happy is that? Anyway, that's another story.
Bestie since going out or bestie before?
Bestie, no, they met through me.
Get out of here.
I know.
That's lovely.
She's the best. You'll meet her soon.
I met her a couple of years ago. Maddie came and did the biodynamic workshop down at Milton.
Well, there you go. My best friend was delivered to me thanks to sorority. Anyway.
Lovely.
But I remember Maddie said that he was going down the whole regen ag path, and one day, as he said in his own words, he had to give himself an uppercut because he was thinking about how I regenerate the soil, how do I regenerate the land, how do I... Next minute he's like, well, you dickhead, you probably need to start by regenerating yourself. And that's his words.
Thank God he had that epiphany.
Right? And that was Maddie's epiphany. And he thought, well, this is ridiculous. I'm talking about all of these things that need to change about my landscape, but my own landscape is cooked. And so began Maddie's research, and that's how we actually met. He heard me on the radio, and one thing led to another. So I'd love to just plug the regen community, speaking of plugs, by saying they've been one of our biggest supporters. And when I've gone and spoken at conferences and at events, and I share, because a lot of them they're very open to what I'm talking about, much more so than certain stubborn corners of the bush continent where I've spoken and I'm terrified I'm going to get bludgeoned to death before I leave. Regen people are really open-minded.
Don't you rock the boat there.
Don't you bloody come here and talk common sense.
Do you think that's because, I mean, I guess the people in the regenerative ag space are kind of, dare I say, open-minded and not alternative. Oh, hang on. Slow back. All good?
It's all good. It's just telling me. Yeah.
Oh, cool. That they have an open mind and they're kind of willing to have those conversations, and that's just kind of, they've picked up alternative farming methods.
Yep. Yeah, they're already willing.
Yeah,
half the battle's done. I spoke at an RCS conference recently in Toowoomba, and I would have to say, without fail, it's one of the most powerful presentations I've ever done. Not because I've suddenly become more powerful as a presenter, but because the energy and the want and the reception was so open. And unbeknownst to me, 4 humans that we've supported were in that gathering that day, and they all independently stood up in Q&A time to say, this chick, literally everything she's saying has changed my life, and rah-de-rah. And it was just like an Oprah Winfrey moment. It was like I'd been and planted people in the bloody audience to leap up and say amazing things about the charity and me. And I was like, oh my God, you get a hug and you get a hug and everyone gets a hug.
Did Oprah do that?
Yeah, she just gives stuff away.
Oh,
you get a hug, everyone gets a hug.
Yeah.
It was like that, and there were tears.
That must have been a lovely moment for you.
God, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And then, anyway, it was like 4 or 5 of these heart-achingly beautiful, honest moments from people, followed by, then I sat down and I was at the very front of it was about 130 or 50, I don't know, whatever people. And I was in the front row, and the fella that was emceeing said, and Shan, he said, before we wrap up and I give you thanks, he said, I want to say that my daughter, and he choked up, he said, my daughter was up in the far northern territory when you spoke at one of their induction weeks, and he said it had such a profound impact on her. So I want to say thanks as well, because you changed her perception in this. Anyway, and I was like, oh, no. And I was like, I'm going to start crying again. And he said, also, you need to stand up and have a look around you, because everyone stood up for a standing ovation. And off the back of that, and I'd spoken about philanthropy, and part of Regen Ag is the concept of philanthropic thinking and giving back. And I didn't know this. I didn't know that was part of what they speak of. And I then shared with that audience about our project, which is my massive focus at the moment and in the year ahead, which is called the Amplification Project, which is where I have basically hang on a second. Oh, no, he's right. So the Amplification Project is, because it's taken me so many years of going first, breaking the ice, busting my choppers, just trying so hard to get this conversation off the ground, and it finally happened. And thanks to the Australian of the Year award last year. I know,
that was so well deserved. Oh. And you went to Her Majesty's funeral.
I did. I went to Her Majesty's funeral.
That's amazing.
But that whole thing, right, that tipped me over into the tipping point, which is I'd been looking for a long time, which is...
Tipping point of exposure and kind of notoriety. Dare I use that word? It's not probably the right word, but
Well, the thing that all good charity founders should seek, which is to make themselves redundant. So what I've been wanting to do for a long time is get away from the front of the camera and the microphone and to flip it and tell the stories of others. But it has taken me 8-9 years of just relentlessly going first until others started to join me, and we're at that point. Praise be, all the things. I tell you, I'm so grateful for that, because I'll always be the founder and it'll always be my story that cracked it open, for want of a better word. But as I've always said, there's nothing unique about me. Nothing. The only unique thing about me is that I'm ugly enough or stupid enough or brave enough or foolish enough to just have kept going for so long until there was traction. That's what I guess is unique. But now others have joined me. And now, and oh my God, Charlie, I get bloody goosebumps all over my body when I talk about it. I'm now out there with a film crew travelling Australia, thanks to the grant of a philanthropic family, telling the stories of others. And we're doing vignettes, 3 to 5 minutes, maybe 5 to 6 minutes, whatever it is, stories of people cutting back or quitting grog in the bush, because we need to amplify this, because we are now on a roll. And this thing has got wings, this thing has got momentum, and we have been so successful in cracking open the chat and making it okay to say no that it's got a life of its own now. And the next logical progression, like I say, thank God, is for me to not be in front of the camera. I'll direct it. I'll always be involved, but it doesn't need to be my story anymore, because others are helping me, and I could weep with relief, because it's hard for me to go through this.
You've been doing 8 years of telling your story. And again, I just have to say thank you for, because you know what I said to Maddie the other, some months ago, I said, I've been trying to track down Shan for so long, and not because you were reluctant, just, chips in the night. And he said, understandably, and he said, you won't get much of a story out of her because she's kind of moved on. Which is probably right, though. So in light of that, and knowing you and the story and whatever, thank you for
going back there.
Yeah, going back there.
You're welcome, mate. And I wouldn't if I didn't want to, see, because I'm selective now and I love you. And let's not forget that you supported me as well. Let's not forget that little small detail. Thank you, Arnott family.
Pleasure.
You know what? This charity has never had a cent of government support or help. We are probably doing more, I would say, for the bush in terms of sustainability and regenerative humans than any initiative I've seen driven from a government perspective, because we're here, we're boots on the ground, we're rural people, we get it, we live it. And the only way we have been able, when I say we, it's our tiny team of me and a couple of humans, we get up and we show up, and we do it through philanthropic support and donations. And thank you for your help, right? Because what people don't understand is that the relentlessness to do what I do and to drive what I drive and to grow this thing. And I, with every single fibre, with every being in my body, I know that it is worth all of this and 10 times more. Like, I know when this amplification project starts getting released, it is going to blow people's minds. And I hope to God that other philanthropic-minded people say, right, how can I help? Because we need help. We need about 10 staff. We need to grow this thing exponentially, because the need in our bush communities is so massive. And it's here that I would love to draw a parallel, if I may, to the fact that in the country, right, we're so ready to talk about mental health now. We'll talk about suicide. We'll talk about farm safety. We'll talk about depression. We'll talk about an ageing population. We will talk about everything that needs talking about in the bush. But we won't talk about the one thing that is a concurrent binding factor in all of the things that are problems, which is what, Charlie?
Underlies the drinking.
Grog.
Yeah.
Grog is at the heart and soul of almost every significant thing that is wrong in the bush, but we will not talk about it front on, minus the fluff.
Because it's the bit, isn't it the bit that, whether it's financial stress, relationship stress, whatever those things are, bad succession. Where's Timmy going?
Makes me so nervous. I hope he's got the pup.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
he's reversing. He would have scooped up. He's a good dog dad.
He's a good dog.
Sorry.
No, I understand. I mean, it's the bit that everyone, it's the crutch, isn't it? In all those situations, it's like, I'll have a grog, it'll be right. I'll put it aside. It's dare I say that it's not a good glue. It's the fibre, which unfortunately is the commonality through all those things. So that's fair. So yeah, it is mental health. It's like, everyone's talking about mental health, which is really good, but like, okay, but there's an underlying thing here. Like, there wouldn't be maybe so much mental health if we addressed not just the cause of the angst or the anxiety or the depression, but like what's the bit that's drawing out that depression and that anxiety.
Like, you tell me the last time a mate of yours who struggled with depression, did he drink too much?
Always.
Does someone commit suicide? Sorry, I take that back. Does someone lose their life to suicide? We're not allowed to say commit suicide. That's another thing I've learned, which is important. I validate that.
Yeah.
When someone loses their life to suicide in the bush, are they drinking? Always.
And that's the interesting thing. It's a telltale sign, isn't it?
Oh, God,
but
always. Yeah. It's staggeringly heartbreaking, but we won't talk about the bloody great big white elephant in the room because it's hard and it's uncomfortable. And I get that. And that is why it is unbelievably critical that people like myself and Maddie and whoever else drive conversations like this from a lived experience point of view, because we can.
Yeah.
And when we do that, it's less intimidating. And when we do it the right way, without judgment, without condemnation, without you mustn't drink or you're bad and evil, when we say, you know what, some of us actually can't. That's, like I said, that ridiculously bloody insipid hashtag that it's okay to say no, which I made up, I think. I don't know. I was in a cafe bored one day. It just took off.
Yeah, but it says everything.
Because it's so user-friendly. No one's threatened.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Hold that thought for 1 second, John.
Are you checking dog?
I need to do a wee so urgently.
We're going to wrap it up soon because we've been at it for 2 hours and 18 minutes. No, you do. No, do that. Can I just say that this has been quite an unusual podcast because we have had interruptions that we were going to roll through. But I have to say this is one of the most not interesting is not the word, compelling, fascinating conversations I've had in the history of the regenerative journey because of the content, because of the individual. Well, the pair, I have to say, Tim has a lot to do with the, Shan's, recovery, epiphany, and it's lovely to sit here and a real honour to be sitting here because, as I said, Tonk said, I don't know if you're going to get a story out of it, and I was not nervous, but I just was always ready just to, skip over the top of that. And I said to Shan before we started, is there anything that's out of bounds? And she said, well, not really, but, maybe, she wants to talk more about, she said she wanted to talk more about the future, which we have, which is great. And I just really appreciate that she has stepped way back in time to talk about it. That's okay. We're going to wrap up now pretty soon anyway. Yes. We're going to have our little Q&A.
Yes.
Just a quick one because we've blown this right out of the water.
I knew we would. I
No.
Skip the intro.
No. You know what? I was just saying where you were away that this is, I can say this very sincerely, that this is one of the most fascinating interviews I've done for all the ones on the whole Regenerative Journey podcast because of your transparency, the courage. I just said to everyone that I said, is there anything out of bounds? And you said, well, maybe not so much at the front end, maybe more the back end, but you went there. And knowing that you, and Tonks primed me some time ago, I really appreciate the fact that you've gone there. And I'm honoured that you are, I guess, limiting, not honor, that's the wrong thing. I really appreciate the fact that you've opened up in the way you have. And I know, given the reach we have and the support we get and our listenership, that this will make a massive impact on many, many, many lives, directly and indirectly, with people who, this may prompt behaviour change or pick up the phone or look on a website, it's really, really important that we do. She's off again.
Oh, bloody Tim.
What happened? Where's the dog?
No,
Dog gone? What?
I had them locked up and that's why Melly was barking. Sorry, everyone. That's so kind, Charlie, because you're dead right. And
So thank you for doing that. It's been a big day. It's Friday.
Big day.
You were going to have a snooze before and you didn't. This has been such a lovely.
You've knackered yourself. And look, honestly, if some of this stuff, and I do, if your listeners are still with us and they haven't gone and stuck their head in a blender by now, because all our dumb words, oh, hi, Biscuit, all of our interruptions and all of our dumb words and the
classic.
Bloody dogs and then Tim.
So cute.
Seriously, he's never home on time, so he came home early.
No, it's great. I'm so glad that I got to meet him. Otherwise, I would have been sneaking off. Your dogs need a bit of love right now. Let's have a 5-minute break.
Let's do it.
And then do a quick Q&A, and that's for our Patreon members. So if you want to, sign up, or if you want to hear Shanna's answers to these questions, jump on charliearnott.com.au, sign up to our Patreon page, and you will get the good stuff as a member, as well as a monthly webinar with one of our guests each month, and Patreon videos and other stuff. So for $10 a month, you can do it. Patreon, yeah, $10 a month. So it's like 2 crappy coffees or 1 good coffee. That's it. Shannon, thank you so much. Oh, the dog. Drink that water, and let's have a little break.
Yeah.
And thanks again.
Are we doing Q&A? Oh,
we'll do it now.
Thank you.
Biscuit.
Everyone.
And next week on the Regenerative Journey, I chat with Murray Richardson of Highland Beef and Stuart Austin for the first of our Highland Beef in-between episodes rolling out next week. The topic of conversation is technology, digital and mechanical and all sorts of technology, which is becoming very, not confusing, but there's a very broad sort of breadth of types of technology being introduced and developed in the agricultural industry. And we chat with Stuart Austin about his thoughts on all that, what he uses, what he doesn't use, and a general chit-chat about, technology in the rural industry next week on the Regenerative Journey.
This podcast is produced by Rhys Jones at Jaeger Media. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to subscribe, share, rate and review. For more episode information, please head over to www.charliearnott.com.au.